What's up, Six Figure Dev? Had to come in on time because thank you so much for the raid right off the bat. Amazing timing. Welcome everyone from Six Figure Dev's raid party. Good to have you. How's everybody doing? What's up, iParty? We out here. We sure are out here. I haven't caught up to VOD for episode 4 yet. I got to late start to the class. I've been trying to catch up. Yeah, and everything, all of last week's just went up today, unfortunately. But they're up to, they are up now. I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, it doesn't matter. Again, it's no big deal. You can catch up when you can catch up. You know, just watch this one, watch that, whenever you have time. You know, it's not super linear, so we'll be all right. What's up, John Calloway? Good to have you. Six Figure Dev again. Thank you so much for the raid. What were you doing over on your channel today? How was your stream? I hope everything went well. What's up, Samara Beauty? How you doing? Penguins Airlines. Good to see you. So Penguins Airlines, today's agenda for everyone. Today's agenda is a full coding crash course. So this week is Cozy Coding Week in Pipelines. Okay, this is exciting. This DevOps SRE infrastructure course, there are a lot more topics involved in this than there are in everything else. So you are going to lightly touch on everything. We're going to learn everything about coding tonight, not everything, but we're going to learn how we're basically going to get thrown into the deep end. We're going to learn about, variables. We're going to learn about functions. We're going to learn about loops, how to just see the logic, have an understanding of what code can do. And on Wednesday, we're actually going to be working through an ETL process, not the same cloud one, not the same AWS cloud one, a much simpler one that we can get through in one episode. But we'll actually do something with it. We'll do something that you might do as a DevOps engineer or site reliability engineer, something infrastructure related in the assistance of code delivery. We'll do an entire ETL process in Python. So we're going to focus on Python tonight, but we are going to dive deep into Python tonight. So what this is going to do is it's going to take you through the topics it's going to take you through are basically the first four weeks of Decoded, but we're not going to spend much time on anything at all. Again, it's just to introduce you to what code can do, and and we'll actually do some cool stuff with it. But this is for, again, we'll talk about why specifically we're learning all this in 1 week and like why we're spending time on this. This is just to touch on it, definitely to get you going. But John Calloway, good to see you. AI Luna, welcome. Absolutely happy Martin Luther King Day. Around the world, really, US based folks, but really around the world. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day to everybody. What's up, Crystallized Code? How are you doing, Irk Attack? How you doing, BPez? It is good to see you. Crispy Chris, good to see you as well. Let's see. We had podcast live. Oh, dope. Oh, document DB. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Some Postgres stuff. We're going to do a Saturday on databases. I think it is the first Saturday in February. But yeah, I will let you all know about that. Aban, how are you doing? Ritvik, good to see you. Dorian, it's always a pleasure. Nitro Sage, Shred Ghoul, good to see everyone. So I'm excited about today. I really do like doing the coding crash courses because it's kind of fun. Getting to see what can happen with code. You will be, so anyone who's going through Decoded, you have a little bit of a leg up here in the beginning, and you may be able to follow along easier in the beginning. But anyone who's learning these things, anyone who's trying to become a DevOps engineer or site reliability engineer, wants to deal with infrastructure, who has no coding experience yet, tonight is going to be a little overwhelming for you. But again, it's okay. We're going to focus on the concepts. We're not going to worry about learning how to code properly. Again, we will tonight learn, get you thrown in there, learn the different topics, learn what's available to you, and then we will do something practical with it on Wednesday. The whole class will be a practical application of the code for DevOps SRE for infrastructure. So check it out. Let's see. Oh wait, Dorothy, did I miss you? First off, we have to give you a shout out. I didn't see your name in here. Oh, you're right there. You're the bright green one right in front of me. Started on Security Plus Saturday after I passed your Network Plus. First off, everyone, please join me in giving a round of applause. Do the little clap hands. I don't know what it's called. This is probably a cheer or something for Dorothy. She passed her Network Plus, which is amazing, phenomenal. Congratulations. We wanted you to come back and let us know how you did, and you exactly how we thought. We came with the encouragement. We knew you were going to pass, and now we're officially dubbing the year as Be Like Dorothy 2021 because we all are also trying on our own journeys, trying to achieve the same success. What's also great about it, I hope Dorothy is okay that I share this, is that Dorothy said she actually failed at first, and she got on the grind and she did some more studying, and she took it a little more seriously, went back at it, took it again, and was able to pass it. And that really is that's a testament to how you got to do it. Like it's really, it warms my heart. I'm glad you're able to find some success early in the year. We're looking up to you. We're all looking up to you. We want to be just like you one day. Seriously. So that's pretty dope. Don't, enjoy the moment, but also we want to hear about your journey as well into that Security Plus. Should be pretty fun. You're gonna have a pretty rounded level of experience. I really like it. So dope. Taking yours February 5th. Dope. Shorebomb. I'm telling you, let us know. I'm pretty excited about this. Now you guys are making me want to go sign up for some stuff, make some stuff happen. All right. Access denied. We're trying to access quiz for pipelines. Let me fix that. So that's another thing. Things come at you left and things come at you from the right, and all kinds of stuff pops up. But let me go see if I can fix that really quick. Two things. For anyone who's in Decoded, you should be receiving, or if you haven't already received, a link to your GitHub, your first GitHub assignment with instructions and everything. Pipelines, on the other hand, there's an issue right now with GitHub Actions, and they have auto-graded assignments, and auto-grading the SSH assignments. If you're using shell scripting, it seems to be it's being problematic. So something that was working is no longer working. That's why it hasn't dropped yet. And I spent a solid hour today trying to figure it out. And I actually think it's a bug within GitHub Actions for this. I may just drop it anyway without it being auto-graded. The auto-grading will still run in case anyone, can see what's going on in there. But yeah, it works, but it's weird. It's reading output funny, and it's exporting funny. So, but yeah, let me go fix that quiz. Which one specifically for pipelines? Check that out. 1 second, quizzes. Edit. Do I have to change the... I don't need to do that. Strict to 1 after submit. Presentation. Yep, this is specifically for the quiz. That last information I was talking about was specifically for the assignment, the GitHub assignment. Dope. G Billingsley, good to have you. Restrict users in Mastermind. Oh, okay. Save. All right, try it now. It should, if you refresh it, I think I made the right settings changes. If not, we'll get it knocked out. All right, we're gonna get going because we have a lot to go over today. It's gonna be pretty fun. Anyone who's hates Go because we were doing Go, we're doing Go in Decoded. This is different. This form collecting email addresses. Hold on, it shouldn't be collecting email addresses. Don't collect email address. Let me save that. Let me see if I can access it from outside. Send. Collaborators email. Hold on. Make a copy. Pre-filled. Preferences. Now this looks good. Try refreshing one more time. I mean, if you hate Go, we can't be. I feel the same way, but tonight's all Python because Python is right up front. Python's a little more practical. I think that if you're trying to be a software engineer, there's things that you need to learn. But for people trying to specifically deal with infrastructure, it works a little differently. So actually, you know what I'm gonna do? Here, you all might have to help me out with this. I told you guys, I'm kind of bad at computering sometimes. Let's look at this quiz here on the screen. Oh, you can't see my screen. There we go. Let's see my screen here. And let's go to pipelines. Let's go to classwork. Not slides. We want quizzes. And all right. So required. Let's go ahead and edit. And I'm not collecting email addresses. I don't need your email address. It's not a big deal. Here. Presentation, fine. Quizzes, fine. Maybe it's in the preferences preview. Let me Add collaborators. No, that doesn't seem right. Forms home. Let's see. Why can't I find the thing? Google Forms. Open. There we go. General. Uncheck the box. Restrict to your domain users. All right. Oh, so you did just get in? Yeah, someone's try refreshing. Maybe I'm looking for the problem. Okay, cool. Quiz working, just refresh. Cool. I thought I got to that same option. Perfect. All right. Give it a little refresh. You can take it. The first quiz is pretty easy. The first quiz is only about 15 questions. All subsequent quizzes are yes, you can share the URL. Absolutely. Oh, can I share the URL? Yeah. The URL for what, Sin City? Also, hello, Sin City. How you doing today? Let's see. Oh, for the quiz, it is in the. I will share this. There you go. But it's also in the Google Classroom if you ever want to get to it there. Yeah. Really good Power Plus trying to understand how to use GoPath packages versus Go modules. Yeah. Yes, I will say, Brennan JC, that is one of the more confusing pieces about Go. It is definitely something that usually trips people up and is usually problematic. So yeah, I definitely get that. Don't feel bad for having gone through that. All right, day 5, coding crash course. This is the week of cozy coding. All right, last week we dove into Linux. So again, you're not going to be a Linux pro, you weren't a Linux pro at the end of last week, but I hope that you learned a little bit more about Linux, the way that it worked, understanding of how distributions work, and got some basic command line experience, so that you have the information to move forward. You know that there are things that you can do. You know that you can submit commands from the command line, and you can administer a computer in that fashion. This week is going to be much the same, but I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult to move forward with coding, because you are trying to solve problems that aren't laid out right in front of you. When you're trying to learn Linux, it's a little more straightforward. These commands do essentially one thing, and it's a lot of memorization of what they do and how to use the tools. Here is where we're going to focus on using tools. So think about it like this. You have no idea how to build a house. All right. And this is how we're learning everything. You have no idea how to build a house, but if you want to learn how to build a house, someone could start with a toolbox so that you can collect your tools, and they can start to teach you how to use a tool one by one. They teach you how to use a screwdriver. Good. Once you've mastered using that screwdriver, you throw it in the box. Once you understand how the screwdriver works, throw it in the box. Then you learn how to use a hammer, throw it in the box. Then you learn how to use, a measuring tape, and you throw it in the box. And eventually you get enough tools together, and now you have enough skills where, maybe no one taught you exactly how to build the entire house, but you have all the pieces that you need to begin putting it together, and you can actually build a house. So we're gonna be doing the exact same thing here. And we're gonna be just picking up a little tool by tool so that eventually you'll be able to build a house. Now, again, it's not as straightforward as maybe Linux might be, but we should be pretty good on this. Also, because this is the infrastructure DevOps SRE course, we are going to be more vague about a lot of things. A lot of what you're going to have to do is to go find information for yourself. So I'm not giving you every single thing here, and we're going to rush through this pretty quickly. There'll be a lot of time to ask questions, but we got to get moving. All right, that is do ! Register for the classroom links. I have not updated those classroom links yet. Those are the old ones, unless you want the old ones. There you go. All right, so people from Decoded have seen this, but displaying output. So when you're writing code, we're gonna use Python. I'll show you how to install it if you don't already have it installed. But what you wanna do is you wanna be able to display output. Okay, it's pretty important. You want to know what's happening in your code, and you want to get that stuff out there. This is the Hello World app that you learn when you first learn a coding language. This is what you do. And so we're gonna learn how to display output. I'll take it back a step. I didn't want to add too many slides here. I actually pulled some slides because it was like 60 slides or something like that. And so I backed off of it a little bit. A little intro to what coding is. All you're doing when you're coding, all you're doing when you're programming is you are telling the computer you're giving computer instructions to run a task automatically. Okay, it's nothing more special than that. You are providing instructions to a computer, and different coding languages allow you to submit instructions to the computer in different ways, and that's what you're doing when you're learning a language. And so they all work differently. It's not super important that you understand, compiled versus interpreted and stuff tonight. Dynamically typed, statically typed, not important. We're going to learn the practical applications of coding. Best resource to learn Python. If you want a quick go through, that's like a course. I do like the Python Bible. It's not super in depth, but I think it's a really good crash course. And I don't know, I learned Python over many years using lots of different resources, mostly hands-on stuff, like actual practical things, like looking up my answers and stuff. So I don't really have a good item for you to, like a good one resource for learning Python specifically. So if anyone does, feel free to share it. Everyone learns more efficiently in different ways, so it's hard to say. Yep. Perfect. That's a perfect first question, Sully. I love it. All right, so we're gonna display some output. First, if you don't have Python installed, it's a pretty easy thing to install. If you're on a Mac, it's probably already installed. If you're on Windows, there should be a Python package. We use python.org. Python.org is the site for it. I think you can hit ! Python and it will show you. SimCity, let me know which one that is and I will go fix that. But Python, pretty simple, pretty ubiquitous. It's a great language. The reason why we are going to be spending tonight learning Python is, again, it's a really good general purpose language. It does a whole lot of things well, as well as it does some specific things well. Machine learning, AI, Python is kind of the go-to for things like that, but it's also a heavily used tool for automation and infrastructure. Again, it's great general purpose. One of the reasons why it's so heavily used is because it has really, I think, comfortable syntax. So it's got really comfortable tooling as well around it. It's not the fastest language in the world, but it's fast enough for most things that most people need to do. And it allows you to do a bunch of stuff easily. The version doesn't matter. Yeah, I will grab the latest one, completely fine. None of the things that we're gonna do tonight should be affected by the Python version. But yeah, Python 3.9 is fine. You can simply download this if you're on Windows and it'll allow you to run Python from the command line. Now, I do want to be very clear. If you are one of the hopefully few people doing this in Windows, I will actually download this to show you something. When you are installing this, there's a one box that I need you to click, and it's this add Python to path. So this is specifically for people on Windows. Click that button, please, when you do the installation. Very, very important. If you do not click that button, when you type in Python from the command line, it will not properly call the Python executable, and so it won't really work for you. So make sure you're clicking this add Python to path button if you're on Windows. For everyone else, Mac, you should already have it installed. You might only have Python 2 installed. You can use Brew to install that, so Brew install Python. You could also use Chocolatey on Windows. You can use Choco install if you like. It's much easier. Trust myself. It's much easier to do Python. Or just type in Choco install. Yeah, I agree. Choco is a great tool, but you might not have Chocolatey installed. You might not be familiar with the Chocolatey package manager. Windows does have a package manager. Chocolatey is a third-party one. They do have their own one called like Winlet or something being developed right now. But absolutely, I'm a big fan of Chocolatey. If you can, oh yeah, Winget makes much more sense than Winlet, 100%. But you can use this to install Python, okay? Really cool, really nice. It's pretty easy to do. Now, we're not gonna deal with any kind of crazy stuff tonight. We're not gonna deal with any virtual environments or nothing like that. You just need to get it working somehow. The way that you know that it's working is you type in Python from the command line. Now, I don't have this installed in Windows, or maybe I do have, okay. Oh, Windows is fancy. Oh, that is impressive. I am not gonna lie. That just threw me all the way off. Python 2.7 is gonna work. Python 2 is technically not supported anymore, but Mac uses Python 2.7 to do a bunch of stuff internally. So yeah, it's definitely pretty old, but it's gonna be okay for our use case tonight. It is gonna be our use case. It's gonna be fine for our use case tonight. We're gonna keep it pretty simple this evening. That was pretty cool. If no one saw what just happened, you can just type in Python from the command line, if you're in PowerShell, I guess, and it will open up to the Windows Store implementation of Python, which is pretty impressive. That's pretty interesting. Never saw that at all. Yes, I would absolutely install WSL. I'm going to be using WSL. I am not going to be using Windows tonight. But again, the quickest way, because if you have this, if you don't already have WSL installed, I'm assuming you probably don't really know what it is, and I don't want you to have to spend time right now to try to get that installed. But 100%, I do agree with that. So once you do have it installed, if you should type in Python on a place where it is installed, if it's properly installed, what it will do is it will drop you into something called the Python interpreter. You might have to type in Python 3. Let me say that right now. You might have to try Python. That doesn't work. Then try typing Python 3 and see if it works, or Python 2. If you have any of these will work for you this evening. It's an installed shim executable. The store version behaves weird. Okay. Excuse me. Excellent. Okay. I mean, I knew there had to be something up with it, but I gotta give Microsoft their props on development. Is usually a terrible experience. Well, it used to be a terrible experience on Windows, or a pretty uncomfortable one. Adding in a little functionality like that is, to me, a step in the right direction for what they want to do. All right, so what happens when I type this in is my prompt works, it changes, and this drops me into what's called the Python interpreter. All the interpreter is think about it like Google Translator. That's all you got right now. Just think about it like Google Translator. It's going to take in Python code, so you're going to be able to type in Python code, and it's going to interpret that and figure out what that means for the computer, and it's going to convert that into what the computer can read, and it's going to execute that code for us. And so this is a good opportunity first to really quick harken back to where we started with the displaying output. So how do we display output? How do we get stuff out to the screen? How is this I love bacon going across this using a coding language? And print it. So I can actually delete all the rest of these because this is the slide that was from Decoded. But all you got to do to the command that you're going to give to the computer to display output is simply print. Okay. And so we can try our very first piece of Python code from the command line once you have it installed. And once you do have it installed, head over to the command line and simply type in print. And put some parentheses here. Do open double parenthesis or single, doesn't really matter. And again, put whatever text you would like. And I'm just gonna put hello. I'm not gonna do hello world, a little too cliche for me. But just simply do hello. And when you hit enter, it's not going to work because this needs parentheses. I go back and forth between languages. So you're gonna need print, open parenthesis, some quotes, the words you wanna print out, close quotes, close parentheses. So let's do something like that, and it will spit this out to what is called standard output. Right now, you don't even need to know about that. You just need to know that it's going to spit it out to the screen. It's going to spit out to the screen when you type in this print. So anything you want the application to spit out, whenever you're installing something, you're clicking through and clicking yes, and it's giving you all that information. It is printing out items to the screen. All right. And I'm gonna show you how to make a Python file. We're gonna learn all that real quick. But again, the thing that I want you to focus on is that we can make our application print things out to the user using the print command. Print it out. That's all you need to know. All right, so that's the first piece. We're gonna open up a file. We're gonna do all these things. I'm gonna give you all the examples. It's gonna be okay. Question about absolute relative path is not exactly true. I missed that. I definitely missed any question about pathing. How is it not relative? Dot log. Okay, so then that's a problem. So architect, yeah, there we go. I missed that is a relative path. That dot slash is in fact a relative path. You are correct. You are correct. That is an error in the questioning, for sure. It is. It is, that dot is relative to where you are. It's right here. It does not start with a slash. So you are correct. That is a problematic answer. I'll fix that as well. Also, the absolute path. What's wrong with the absolute path one? Which about some pip packages? For the users, so some pip packages are still needs rebuilding for 3.9. So I think that's only the case if you actively went out and just installed 3.9 when you had something else on here, we're not going to use any pip packages for anything tonight at all. We're not going to use pip whatsoever. Most people are probably not even going to have pip installed on their machine right now. /var is an absolute path, correct. So all absolute paths started with slash, so that should be the right answer. If that wasn't the right answer, that should be the only right answer for the absolute one. But yeah, we're not going into any pip stuff because it's going to be very confusing to go into any pip, any Python virtual environment, any pip VM stuff. We're not going to need to go into. Yeah, there we go, Sin City. Trick question for sure. All right, so printing it out is the way that we can do that. All right, so print. You want to get something out to the output? Print. And so this is a coding concept for just about every language. And so these concepts are perfectly applicable to other coding languages. And so just about everything else, the other things that you see here, this format.print and format.println, this is for Go. This is for the Go language that we've been learning as well. And you can see here, it's definitely different, but the word print is still there. The concept of printing is still there. Print's not always the keyword. Other languages like JavaScript, it's console.log instead. There's other things that where it's, it's puts in Ruby. It can get a little interesting, but this is the concept here. So the next thing we're gonna do before we dive into the rest of these concepts, I feel like I pulled too many slides from this. How many slides are in here now? Yep, I had like 60 slides, so I pulled stuff I didn't think was important, but now I'm realizing a lot of those things were important. The main one being, how the heck do we even write Python code? I'm assuming probably 95% of the people here probably understand how we're gonna write some code. But if you don't know, what I want you to do is hit !VS Code in the chat. It's going to give you a link to what is called Visual Studio Code, which is a text editor. There are many text editors out there. This is going to be the one that I really want you to use if you are brand new to these things and you have no idea what you want to use. This is how we can write code. There's a number of ways, but a text editor is just a text input device, very simple, like similar to Microsoft Word, to be honest, but designed around being able to code properly. And oh, well, we have a bad Nightbot commit. Man, we're not on our game right now. Let's update that really quick. VS commands, edit, !VS Code, which is https://code.visualstudio.com. All right, now it should be correct. VS Codium greater than VS Code. Yes, sure. I agree with you. Oh yeah, Maryland has, got a rep. I'm not particularly I love the state of Maryland fan, but again, my brother is a football coach. He's one of the football coaches at University of Maryland, and they give out some dope swag sometimes. We get some cool stuff. It is a little cool here, so got the hat on, rep it. It also, looks good with the red shirts, the Washington shirt, Maryland hat, all good. All right, so VS Code is how you're gonna get that if you want it. And it's pretty dope. VS Code made by Microsoft. Yes, Microsoft doesn't do all bad things. They do some good things sometimes, and this is in fact one of them. Feel free to go download it. Have a great time. It's pretty easy to install on any platform. You click it. There's an executable to click on. Hopefully you'll be able to figure that out. So once you get that installed, it looks like this. It's not gonna ask you to log in, but it's gonna ask me to log in because we were doing some remote development on this. This is good. I'm actually gonna have Python code already up and ready for you to take a look at. Sim, how are you doing today? That's again great timing. Welcome to the channel tonight. What were you doing on your channel? I know you were doing something that I don't understand because every time I come through, I don't understand what's going on. And I'm always confused. So welcome everybody from Sim's channel. Good to see you. We are doing a coding crash course for our members of Pipelines, people who are trying to learn about DevOps and SRE concepts, infrastructure, software delivery. We are doing a one-day crash course into coding. So we're gonna learn a lot tonight. And then on Wednesday, we're diving into a Python ETL process that is, again, different from the one that we did for A Cloud Guru. It's not that intense because we have one day to do it. And we're kind of putting it in the context of the things that we currently know. So, we're gonna be doing that right now. At Guild Wars Bots, Guild Wars was the first MMO I ever played. At my second company ever, a bunch of people there played it, so I started playing it, and it was all right. Please mention about PyTest, PyLint. No, we don't need any of that right now. This is the goal is not to become Pythonistas right now. We don't need to know about those things right now. We're focusing on the concepts of coding. We're starting out. A lot of people have no idea what you can do with code. So those are all things that we'll talk about in Decoded. So that's the Tuesday and Thursday class. If you want to talk more about those things, that's when we'll cover those things. All right. So this is a text editor, which will help you edit text. You can use this just like Windows. New file is how you create some new things, okay? You wanna create a new file and new file will allow you to do that. And what we need to name our Python files so that the computer knows they're Python files or for them to execute, it needs to have this .py extension. So if I type something in here, like print, so this is the same code I wrote before. I want to print hello. And I save this. It's gonna ask me what I want to name it. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna name it test.py just because. And now it gives me some cool colors, okay? Everything is good to go here. And this is one of the reasons why text editors are so great. They give you some information about what you're doing. They give you some visual indicators for what you're doing, and it makes it pretty easy to code. So again, just write it down. If you're like, oh, this is a lot already, everything's, write it down, say, hey, I need to look into some text editors, or I need to look into how VS Code works. And I think you will like it. But to run it, all we gotta do from the command line to run it is we need to call Python and we need to call the name of the file. That's all we need to do. So Python 3, because it's still Python 3 on my computer, and test.py is what I called the file, and it will run our code. So the very first thing that we learned was how to output things to the user. That's all we're doing right now. We're outputting to the user, and print will do that. All right. Now that we're up and we're running, okay, we are going to run through lots of concepts, and I'm going to run through the beginning concepts very fast. Probably before 750, you will have learned most of the basics of coding by 750. And then so we're doing that so that we can spend time learning the logic of coding. This is really what I want you to learn today. Covering the basics, then you will learn the logic of coding, which is a big deal. All right, so here we go. First thing, print. Second thing, variables. A very, very important concept in coding. Variables are a way for you to reference a data value, okay? So the example here that you see on screen is simply a box that is labeled name, but inside of that box, the value of this is Maria. And so what this is it's a reference, and it's a reference that can be changed. What does the word variable mean? The word variable means something that can be changed. The word variable means that it can be changed. It's something that can be different. And so these are placeholders. So name would be the variable, and it would hold a value, okay? And here it would be Maria. And later on in the code, if we'd like, we can change that value because it's a variable, and we can now redirect that, and name can now be, we can say, hey, now I want name to hold the data Aaron instead, because that's my name, and now it is Aaron. And then we can change it later to be something completely different. If we like, it doesn't need to be a name. The name is just a descriptor, but it doesn't matter. Yes, we can put the cat in the box. We can do that as well. So let's see what that looks like. And actually, let's create a folder. I'm gonna create a folder for us so that we can do some other, so we can easily push this. Let's actually, let's create a whole new folder for everything that we're gonna do here. MKDir, pipelines. I'm gonna call this Crash Course. All right. Woo. I'm really trying to get us going because I know there's so much of it to do, and I don't want to get caught too far behind. So I made this new thing. I'm gonna make a new file for every single concept that we learned. So the first one was I'm gonna call it 01 because it's the first thing that we did. So I'm gonna open up a new file. I'm gonna call it 01 output.py. Okay, that's what I call it. And in here, I'm gonna put the code that we just did. Print. There we go, sure. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now we're gonna go on to the second thing. I'm gonna call it 02, and I'm gonna call this variables.py. All right, now the way that you display a variable, the way that you create a variable is simply with an equal sign. Equals in coding, it's an assignment operator. It is assigning a value, it's assigning the value of the thing on the right into the thing that's on the left. So let's say, again, let's do exactly what we just saw. Let's say name equals Maria. Now you see me typing these quotes around things. Some things have quotes, some things don't. The things that have quotes around them are what are called strings, okay? Not crazy important that you know about all the different data types tonight, but whenever you see quotes, think strings, okay? Strings are just words and phrases, all right? For right now, words and phrases, they're lists of characters, they are strings of characters, and that's why they're called strings, but think words and think phrases. So name equals Maria is the first thing that we're gonna throw up here. So now, if we refer to the variable the variable name, what do you think it's gonna give us? So if I try to print out name, what do you think it's gonna give us? Whoa, why isn't it, oh, wrong buttons. And if I do Python, the name of the file that we call this was 02-variables.py. Oh, whoops, Python 3. I really need to alias this. And it prints out Maria, okay? So variables are, again, these placeholders for the value of Maria. So whenever we call name, we can call it anywhere throughout the code. So we can set this value once. If we had a bunch of other code and we needed to reference Maria at any given time, we could do that, okay? And what we can do now is we can change it, okay? So let's run Maria there, but then let's do it again. Let's see if we can reassign it to something else. Let's call it Dave, all right? And then we're gonna print name. Okay, so first, we created a variable called name and we assigned it the value of Maria. We printed it out. Then later in our code, we the same variable, we use it again, but we assigned it a new value called Dave. And then we try to print it out here. Let's see what happens when we run it. And when we run it here, the first thing it does is print out Maria. So it goes line by line. So it goes here and it says, hey, when I print name, it's Maria. Then when we changed it to Dave, and when we print it out again, it's Dave, all right? So it can be changed over and over again throughout the code. We can change it to whatever we want to change it to. F5 to run the code. So interesting. You shouldn't use, yes, F5 might work to run your code. Python in particular can be problematic. The way that your system is set up may not be available to run code with this little run button. If you see the green button up there, you can go ahead and try it. It is not always going to be available to you the way that Python is set up on your computer. So just be careful about that. And you kind of need to know how to run code from the command line. It's important. You're going to spend, especially when you're dealing with infrastructure, DevOps, SRE, you need to know how to use the command line. So again, we're just getting hands-on with that. Are we gonna do a database crash course? We need to. We started to do a relational one. I think we did the first day, and we didn't do the NoSQL day, or maybe we did the NoSQL with Mongo. I can't remember, but yeah, we are gonna do that. It's gonna be one of the Saturday build sessions for sure. How to do aliases at some point? That would be super helpful for noobs. Yes, Dorothy. Yeah, and you know what? Let's set that up right now. Okay, actually, so an alias, what is an alias? If you want to quickly do this from the command line, because right now, when I type in Python, it doesn't work, but Python 3 does work. I can alias. So alias is just another name. It's a nickname, okay? That's all you gotta think about it. It's a nickname. So I can say, hey, alias, when I type in Python, it's equal to Python 3. Now, I need to put one of these in quotes. I don't remember which one I need to put in quotes, but I'm about to. And so now when I type in Python, it references Python 3. Now, there's something we really need to talk about right now is, but that we're not going to dive into, is that if I close this window, this will no longer work. All right. This alias that I set up, and I'll pull it back up so you can see it. It says, hey, whenever I call Python, actually go ahead and type in Python 3. The computer will see that as me typing in Python 3. So now if I do Python, if I do Python and call this how I called it before, it calls this just fine. Again, this only works in my current session. It will not work if I should close this window. Okay. This has to do with Linux sessions and stuff. Again, something to look up. We could add it to our bash RC, but that's not what we're going to be focused on right now. Teach them to use Py instead of Python 3. So even if they have multiple versions of Python installed in their system, it will use the latest version. Also not super important. That's the goal. Again, isn't to use the latest version of Python. The oldest version of Python will work for what we are trying to do tonight, at least. All right. And yes, bash RC, but then, then we got to explain what a bash RC and everything is. So we're not going to do that right now. All right. So that is variables. All right. So we can change it. It holds a value. You can also, you can assign it other things too. It doesn't just need to be text. It can also be a number. So we can say age equals 30 and we can print out age and it will print this out. Now, there are, when people talk about data types, these are two different data types. Remember, we said that whenever you see those quotes, think of a string. This 30 does not have any quotes around it. It's a number, it's an integer, it's a whole number. And so those are just two different kind of data types. There are other data types, there are other number types. Floats are decimal points. Yeah, there's Boolean values, so there's true, false values. We will get to Boolean values shortly as well. But yeah. All right. Yes, you can export to, so exporting, you need to edit your bash RC file. Also, export will also not keep it. It'll also keep it for the current session. It will not hold it long term. If I should close this down, that export will no longer be effective. But yeah, 100%. Okay. So displaying output with a print statement, variables with this, with the equal sign. Okay, assign the value of what's on the right to the thing that's over there on the left. Okay, now we got getting user input. So now we're getting into a little more fun stuff. So we learned how to display output. How do we get input? All right, how do we take input from the command line? We can take input from the command line from what's called standard input. And the way that we can do that is simply using the input keyword in Python. Now in Go, it's not so simple. It's still simple, but the concept of it is a little deeper for us to learn. And so that's why we just put that there. But you use the keyword input, but you must save that. So we can get input, but we must save that value to something. And what can we use to save the values of stuff? Variables. So we can ask the user for input, and we can save the value of what they type in as a variable. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a file, and let's do that. Let's create a brand new file, call it O3 user-input.py. All right, and I'm gonna say, hey, the user input, we can call this variable whatever we want. And I can say user input is equal to input. So this is the keyword right here. Input with these parentheses is the thing that says, hey, go ahead and ask the user what they want to pass into the program. And so we can put a little statement here. We actually don't need to type in anything, but then it won't give us anything. So watch this. Let's go ahead and print out user input. And if I run this, it is going to ask me for input, but it's not going to prompt me for anything. It's not going to let me know that it's asking me for input, but it will wait for me to put in input. And so clear this out. Let's close this so we have more space. Let's do Python 03. And I spelled Python wrong. That makes perfect sense. and it sits and it waits, and it looks like the program is not working. It is actually working. It is just waiting for me to type in something. So if I should type in Aaron, all it does is print out exactly what I typed in, because this input right here is it's waiting for input. I gave it input. It saves it to this variable, and then it prints that variable out. And that's what's happening here. But we can put a little text in here to let the user know what to put in. So we can say, how old are you? So how old are you? And we'll get a little space there so that it looks really good. And if we run this again, now it's asking a specific question. We can enter in whatever we want. It doesn't care if I enter in text and not a number, but it does in fact do that. It doesn't do that. What Omer's talking about is something that is it's fairly important, and it'll make a little more sense to you once we dive into the actual implementation of stuff on Wednesday. It is a really important thing that the data that's coming in here, even if we put how old are you, and then I type in 50. This right here, this piece of data is actually text. It's not actually a number, it's text. And that is really, really important to know later on when we learn about data type stuff. We're gonna dive deeper into data types tonight, but yes, that is something that is very important. What I want you to focus on right now is simply that you can get input from a user. And in Python, this is how you do it. It's something that is available to you. But keep that little nugget about data types, a little nugget about input in Python, always returning a string, always taking the stuff in as strings. It's very, very important. It's going to come up when we are implementing our ETL solution. So it is very, very important. So it's not a number. This is an actual string, and I can prove it to you. Give you a little extra nugget. Again, not something you need to focus on, but we're going to drop nuggets throughout the way. And I can check the type of data that it is. When we talk about types, we're talking about the type of data that it is. And when we do this, type in 50, it says, hey, class str, which is short for string. That is always going to be a string. Sometimes you need that to be a number because different data types don't play well together. In Python, they play surprisingly well together. But it's very important that you know what kind of data something is. So we'll take that back out and we'll simply put it right back at user input. Okay. There we go. I'm gonna leave it there. Take a look at it for a second, get comfortable with it. You can type whatever you want in here, okay? This is just a string, and it's just information you can put in there to help the user out and understand what goes on. What's up, Granite Cow? Good to have you. Welcome to the channel. Mr. Zhao, welcome. A Zwoa, welcome as well. Mew Crazy, good to have you. G Hernandez, welcome. Good to see everybody. I'm glad you're in here. All right, so that is getting user input. And remember, this is actually pretty important though, that you, if you want to use that information, you must capture it. Pretty sure this will still work in Python. Like if I don't save it to a value, I'm pretty sure it'll still ask me. And so it still asks me for something. I can type it in, but then nothing happens with it. I can't do anything with it in my program. So that is why we must capture it in a variable. All right, so we're basically taking what's on the right, we're getting that data in, and we're assigning it to the thing that's on the left. We're assigning that value to the variable that is on the left. So cool. 1, 2, 3. Now we're already on to 4. All right, we're learning lots of topics today. On to 4, types. So this is where we were getting to those different types of data. All right, you need to be familiar with this. You are probably not going to remember these, but right up front, we have this. So it's just like Pokemon. I always like to go to Pokemon. I have Pokemon up on my wall right here because it is something that is relatable to many, many generations of people. But we all understand types in Pokemon. And if you understand types in Pokemon, you can understand data types, okay? It's not that difficult of a thing, but it takes some memorization. Templars, welcome. Thank you so much for the tier 1 sub. Good to have you. Welcome to the family. Thank you so much for the support. Congratulations on winning the war against advertisements. You no longer have to see them for at least 30 days. So welcome. And so we have different data types. The first one is strings. We talked about that. Whenever you see quotes, particularly in Python, whenever you see quotes, double quotes or single quotes, this is Python specific, or well, not Python specific, but this is not true universally. Double quotes is pretty much universal. Single quotes in Python is also strings. So whenever you see quotes, I want you to think strings. And strings are simply a list of characters, okay? Letters, numbers, whatever. If you see them in quotes, this is a string. That is one type of data. Words and phrases, text. That is what a string is. Then we have numbers. So we have integers. Integers are whole numbers, okay? Integers are, so whole numbers, all right? Take it back to elementary school, take it back to middle school. We're talking about whole numbers on that number line. 0, 1, 2, 3. Also negative numbers though, -1, -2, -3. But complete whole numbers are integers, and they're usually called int, I-N-T, all right? Is bool weak to integers? I think it's actually strong to integers, actually. Well, that's a good question. You know, we should evaluate the weaknesses, the strengths and weaknesses of them, so we know what kind of attacks are critical and whatnot. But yes, integers. So they usually call ints. So if you ever hear me say int, or you see somebody else say int, or you see int somewhere, they're talking about integers, they're talking about whole numbers. This is a different data type. There are other numbers out there. So there are whole numbers, which means there are non-whole numbers, which are decimals or fractional numbers, but decimal numbers with decimal points in them. These are called floats, all right? There are also doubles here, floats and doubles. Don't worry about doubles right now. I want you to know about floats, that they are a different data type than integers. Integers and floats are different pieces of data. In Python, I think they work well together. Other languages, they may not work well together, but they are different types of data. And the last one that I want you to know about right now is Booleans. So true or false, the values. It's just true or false. Yeah, it's just true or false. There are values that evaluate to Boolean values, but we're not gonna get into that right now, just Boolean values. And so this is true or false. And let's see what all of these things look like right now with a new file called 04-data-types.py. All right, so first off, I'm gonna type something in called a comment, okay? In Python, the ampersand, not ampersand, the hashtag or the pound symbol, you know, depending on your era, is the thing to make your, to make something called a comment. And a comment is a piece of text in this file that will not be evaluated when the code is run. It is purely there to be informational text. Python will not interpret this code at all. So I'm gonna put in here example of a string, and again we'll set x equal to hello, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to print out the type of string so that we can confirm this. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do print, and well, first, this is the way that you check the type of something. The way that you check the type of something in Python, what type of data it is via the type function, and you pass in whatever you want to check. So we set x equal to hello, and we say, hey, what type is x? And type is how you do that. But that won't actually show you anything, I don't think. Let's actually find out. I think you have to print it out, but I will see in a second. I'm gonna run this real quick. Yeah, we gotta print that out. We didn't tell it to do anything. Whoa. Okay, there we go. In that. Okay, so when we print this out, we get class string, str. So that's string. All right. Then let's do an example of an integer. And let's keep using x. We can continue to use x. And so x, if we want to set it to an integer, we type in a number. Let's do 678, 678. You can type in whatever number you'd like to type in. And again, we can just take this line right here and we can paste it here. And we can print this out. So the first time it is an integer. The second time, what is it? I mean, the first time it's a string, second time it is an int, an int, okay? Now, don't get confused. You can still make a number. A number can still be a string. All right, so we can still put it in quotes, and now it's a different thing. This is exactly what we're talking about. See, str. This is exactly what we're talking about when we were talking about input. When you get that input from the user using the input function, it always passes in with quotes around it, basically. And so if you're trying to do addition or something like that, you can't do it by default. So that is something good to know there. Let's see, let's do example of a Boolean. Let's do an example of a float. And we're gonna do X again equals, set X equal to 6 point, let's do 3.14, let's do pi. And we are going to paste type X again. So now what should we get? We should get str for this one. We should get int for this one, type integer, and we should get type float for this one right here. So string, int, and float right here. And so again, float is a different data type. It's seeing these two things as two different items, two different types of data. That's something important to know. Again, Python, it doesn't matter quite as much, but it is something good to know that they are different types of data. And then the last data type, there are more data types, but these are kind of the main ones that you'll need to know across the board. And let's do example bool for Boolean, and we'll set X equal to false. The word false, okay? And we will go ahead and print that out. So Booleans, the actual value is the word true or the word false. Notice that they are not in quotes. These are keywords. There are some keywords in Python. There are about 33, 34 reserved words that you can't use. So I couldn't call a variable false because this word is kind of saved and reserved in the system for this purpose alone. And so if we do that, we have a string, an integer, a float, and a Boolean. All right, true false is a Boolean. Booleans are going to be very important to everything that you do. We have a float, which is a decimal, integer, whole number. So both of these can be positive or negative. So let's put a negative number there just so you can kind of see that it's still okay, that it is positive or negative. Everything's still fine. Everything's still good to go. All right. Those are the basic data types. And like I said, there are many more types. Different languages have different types. Like Python doesn't have the data type for an individual letter or character. So that's something that you may see in other languages, that a character is different from a string in most languages. So yeah. I've never heard it referred to as casting in Python, only converting or conversion, but I don't know of a difference. Oh, we're gonna talk about casting and coercion or conversion. And yes, they are two, they're different things. Converting something and casting something are two different things. People use them interchangeably though, so don't sweat it if you've heard that, like, people use them pretty interchangeably, even though they are not. So this was actually the next slide. So there we go. Type casting. All right. This is how you get the code to do its best to interpret the data type that you see or that's being passed in as what you want. This is not changing the value. This is not converting it to a different value. It is having and this thing where Python, it's weird. It's not weird, it's just it gives you a lot of magic, and you can actually use these to do the conversion between two different data types. So you can. The difference is when you convert something, that means you are changing something. You are changing the value of something. So if you convert a string to an integer, let's say it's the string 600, and you want to make that a number so you can work with it in different ways, and you convert that to a number so that it's permanently a number now in the data, that is conversion. Okay, that is when you are converting something. Casting is where you are you're doing it, but you're doing it in its own little instance where you're not changing the underlying data. No. Come on, internet. Hold on, I think it's going back up. No, I think we're back. It was dropping for a second, but the data should be back. Let me know. It looks good on my end. I did see the bandwidth drop. The bandwidth looks to be back. No, it's Comcast. Comcast has been relatively unreliable, but yeah, it is back. I do see that it was cutting for a second, but we're good. I think we're good to go. It's actually high. It's actually giving out more bit rate than it was given, so that's good. Maybe it's trying to catch up. They're also coming over here to install a business line. hopefully that'll help. I'm doing my best not to go to the office to stream. Again, my wife's at home. She only has 9 weeks left of her pregnancy, and so I do want to be here as much as possible. Yeah, the timing is too consistent. It's very consistent. It's very consistent. It's back. No, it's still good. Okay, cool. Yeah, it is definitely peak hours where I am. It's for sure peak hours. All right, so here we go. Let's keep running so that we can hopefully beat any major issues that we have. I wish Baltimore City, man. Baltimore City, Comcast basically has a monopoly in Baltimore City. I literally can only get this, or I can get satellite. Those are my only two options. AT&T Gigabit, I'm pretty sure they're not doing Gigabit over satellite, but yeah. Business has a dedicated line. You have a bunch of bandwidth for sure. Dope. Perfect. That's great. And I'll get a static IP, so I can set up I've been wanting to set up a server at my house for a couple different things. So that'll be pretty exciting. But yeah. All right, so typecasting. So how do we get the interpreter to interpret a data type as something different? Let's see that right now. And this will actually be perfect. You know what? Let's not do that. Let's do this. Let's take our input. Let's move our input. What's that? 03, which is user input. Let's move it to, not move. We don't want to move. We want to keep that. So copy 03. We want to copy that to a new file called 05 and call this typecasting.py. All right. So now we have this new file here, typecasting.py. It is the base. We basically copied the file we did for input. And so let's do type here. Just so we can confirm, we're going to take input and we're going to check the type of that input. What's up, SK5P? Welcome to the channel. Indiglo, welcome as well. I think I might have already got you, but if not, doubled up. It's all good. So let's see. Let's print this out right now. Undo. Save this. So when we do this, it's going to ask how old we are. I, again, am going to put it in the number 50. It's a number. What type is a number? Integer. Great. Sounds good. But when it prints this out, it says the type that I have is a class string. Okay, it's saying it's a string. We already knew that. But what we can do is we can actually cast this to something different. And so, and again, and here's the difference between casting and conversion. Again, Python, because they give you all the tools are kind of magic. If I want to cast this to something different, if I want to make it a number, I can do my best to turn it into a number by wrapping it in this int function saying, hey, make this thing an integer. And we can take a look back at this. Notice how it's just data types. It's the data types that we know. So we can take something and we can try. Again, this is an attempt, all right? You can't make, an integer is a number. It's a whole number. You can't make a string that can't be converted properly into a number. So we'll look at an example of that, but it needs to be legal. It needs to be a legal value for us to properly do this. But yeah. So let's see now when we cast it to an int, let's see what that looks like. 50. And it says, hey, this is a class integer. I passed in the number 50 and it can successfully convert it or cast it, not convert it. It can successfully cast it to an integer. And so it's interpreting it in that line as an integer. But the data type of user input is not actually changing it, okay? It's not actually changing it to something else. I'll show you how to change it to something else in a second. But I also want to show you that if I type in how old am I, and I type in something like Aaron, and I type that in, I get an error. Again, it has to be a valid value. Why am I getting an error? Because it's trying to interpret the string Aaron as a number, as an integer, and it can't do that because it's completely wrong. And so what happens, you can mess around with this and say, hey, what happens if I type in 5.6? What if I type in a float? And again, we get another error. It can't do that. It's a different data type. So it's not properly, it doesn't know what to do with that thing because it can't legally cast that into something else. Float, then otherwise the user inputs 2.0, give you value error. Yeah. I mean, we're not trying to make this code work. It's just the concept itself. So for us to change the value, we could change the value. We could change the value by doing this. User input equals int user input. And let's break this line down for a second. And if we check the same thing, we check the type and we remove this right here. This is a different piece of code. And this is where we are changing the underlying data here. We are saying, hey, user input, take it in. So we take in the user input. It always comes in as a string. Then we are setting user input because we can change it to the value of user input when it's casted to an integer. So it's gonna run that logic and it's gonna stick it back in, it's gonna overwrite the value that's in the user input. And now it's going to be a type integer. And now we can check the type and it will be good to go. And so if we put in something that's valid, like 50, it is class int. All right, and so this permanently changes the type of, oh, and actually, so this is good. We can put it back to the old way in a second. This changes the type, permanently changes the type. But if I go back to how we had it, like this, and after this, I print out, so we cast it up here, but then I print out the type of just user input afterwards. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna try to cast it to something new, and it's gonna attempt to cast it. But then we're gonna print out the data type of user input because we haven't changed the value at all to show you that it is still going to be a string. And so the first time it is int, so right here, it casts it to an int, but it doesn't change what this is. This is still a string. And then when we print it out, it stays a string. Casting does that, but if you wanna save it, save that value, you can just save it to a value, so yeah. The end function tries to do the text, the same thing the Python interpreter does, the code, and the code is a type string. Yep. Try val int user input, accept value error. Print that's not an int. Yeah, if you want to put some, you can do all kinds of stuff. You can mess around with this code, put in all kinds of error handling, all that other stuff. Anything you want to try, you know, this is going to give you a base level of code to do some fun stuff with it. So we'll leave this here for casting. All right. String methods, we are not going to, let's do it real quick. So string methods, there's a link here. I'll share it with you. String methods are cool little tools. Just imagine it, they're called methods, which are functions that are a part of this something called a class. Don't worry about that right now. They're just these cool things that we can do with the data type string. So when we say Python string methods, it's saying, hey, with the data types that are strings, we can do some cool methods to them. We can do some cool things to them. And so there are a bunch of tools in here that allow you to do some cool stuff, like check if it is a digit or not, or uppercase everything, or lowercase everything, or make it a title. So we'll do one example of this, only one example of this. We don't really need to know that much about these right now. And let's call this string method .py. And again, our string is going to be, let's call it x equals, this is a test. Okay, so that is our string. A string method can be called by a little function here, by using the dot parameters. Let's see up. And so here's an example. They set text equal to the string hello friends. So there's a variable called txt. They set it to the value hello my friends. Then on text, which is a string, because it's a string, it's a class string, they can call this method dot upper. And what upper will do is it'll uppercase everything. And so we can try this right here. And so we can say now, say y equals x dot upper. Okay. And now if we print y, we're gonna get a value. And print that out. Every letter in here is upper. All right, Omer, go have a good sleep. I need to sleep as well. Gonna be 100% honest with you. But yeah, have a good night. Appreciate all the input. I think you had a lot of really great input. I really love it. I love all the conversation about. I really want to go back through it because because I'm not a Python dev, but I've used Python to do a lot of automation. I'm interested in some of the it sounds like you're a Python dev. I'm interested to talk. I actually have some questions for you. Come back through one day. I have some Python questions for you about your thought about things. I find that developers, the things that are important to people who are pure devs, always surprise me. They never fail to surprise me. It's pretty interesting. But yeah, hope you have a good night. Go get some rest. So something like upper will do that. And again, these are little tools. All you need to do right now is to think about them as little tools that will help you perform some cool actions on the type string. All right. And so it'll tell you, this link that I sent out will help you know what to do. There's a bunch of good stuff there for you to mess around with. On there, you can, like I said, you can uppercase just the first letter. You can split strings up. We're going to use some of these for sure on Wednesday, but you don't need to go through and learn all of them. Just know that for different data types, there are usually some tools and some things that you can do with them to mess around and to manipulate them pretty easily. All right, so math. So that's what you can do with strings. Let's talk about math now inside of Python. So, you know, sometimes you want to do math. This is not what, this is the wrong slide. Don't worry about this slide. This is not the type of math that you want to learn. Let's go learn the type of math that you want to learn right now. This stuff is good, 100%, but these are not the examples that we want. There's simpler math to be learned here, and let's go ahead and do that. So 07, I wonder how many files we're gonna have at the end of this. And we'll call this arithmetic operators. Let's call it that because that's what they are. Is it arithmetic or arithmetic? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Spelling, don't matter. All right, .py. So we're gonna do some math here. We're gonna do some arithmetic, and let's learn about that. So first one that we're gonna do is we're gonna do addition. Okay, and the way that you do addition is, look, it's just 5 plus 5. So the 5 is the plus is the operator for addition. Plus, pretty simple, just like a calculator. This will give us some good stuff. If we were to print out 07. And no, it will not, because we didn't actually do anything with it. What is this error? Hold on. Text manipulation, print rules. Okay, I didn't print it out. We're gonna print out 5 plus 5. I don't think I've ever seen that error. But okay. Maybe I have. What? Print mail cap rules. Found type text. Hold on. For type text Python operators, no print mail cap. What is this? Hold on. What's happening right here? What, am I doing something wrong? What is going on? Oh, because I'm typing in print and not Python. Actually, I don't even think I need to print, do I? Yeah, I need to print. Python. Okay, the issue was this. was I was typing in print instead of Python because I'm moving really fast, and that's what happens to your brain. But 5 plus 5 equals 10. All right, basic math. So you know you can do some basic calculations if you want. If you want to easily add some numbers together, you can. Let's do subtraction. Let's do print 10 minus 4. Okay, what's 10 minus 4? 10 minus 4 is 6, and the minus is what you use to do subtraction. Great, phenomenal, very, very exciting. No, that did not work. What happened now? Subtraction is not defined. There we go, making more mistakes. Let me slow it down and actually do things correctly. So that failed because that was not a comment. And there we go, 10 and 6. So we add two things together with the plus, subtract them with the minus. Then what we do to multiply is going to be print, and this is going to be the star operator. Okay, so if you didn't know that before from like using your calculator, the star is going to be multiplication. Here, the little asterisks. I don't know. We'll look it up. But 5 times 2 should give us 10. And so we should get 10, 6, 10, and we get 10, 6, 10. Now we get division. And you might know where we're going with this. So let's print 20 divided by, so slash is division, divided by 4. That's how, if you want to do any math, you can do that. Oh, splat. Splat's a good one. That is, I've heard it called splat a lot of times. But it's interesting. I refer to it as splat when I'm talking about like regexes. So that's pretty interesting. So I want you to notice something here. Can someone Someone throw out what they noticed about when we divided. Look at the output. What do you notice about division? Asterisk. There we go. Thanks for looking that up for me, or just telling me because you knew. Currently attending. Yes. Oh wait, somebody asked a question. Okay. Yeah, it's a float. It's a gloat. I love it. It's a gloat. That's what it is. Nah, it's a float. Exactly. So it returned a float instead of an integer. Okay. Even though it is an integer, it returned a float. We can do a double slash to get back the integer value of this, the kind of absolute of this. So you can do double slash. That's helpful. But I want you to be aware that if you are going to do division, it does in fact give you an integer. So messing around and playing around with code is going to show you things like this. These are the intricacies of code when you get good. Like you start to see things like this and you start to know these things. You start to understand how to operate within these things, but just explore. Pretty dope. Okay, so that's division right there. And this is the last one we're gonna learn right now. There's exponents as well. We don't need to know exponents, but here's one I want you to learn, and this is modulo or modulus. I don't really know which one it is. I'm gonna put a slash. So modulo, I think, is the operation, and I think modulus is the operator, the actual symbol. Don't really know, but what's up, Potlicker? Good to see you. Welcome. Good to see you. 2 days in a row I saw you. It's amazing. But yeah, so modulo or modulus, and so this is also division. Okay, it's also division, but what it does, and I'll show you what it looks like first. Let's do the same thing. Let's do 20. Modulus is the percent symbol. Okay, and let's do the same thing that we did before. So modulo 1, it is division. It does divide. Okay. But what it does is it gives you back, we get 0 here. It gives you back the remainder instead of the actual division value. Okay, so 20 divided by 4, 4 goes into it 5 times with no remainder. So it gives us back 0. So if I change this number to something like 6, what do we get? It's still gonna divide, but we get back 2. Why do we get back 2? Because 2, 12, 18. So 2 goes into 20. 6 goes into 20 3 times. That's equal to 18. And there's 2 left over to make it 20. And so it returns the remainder. You will use modulo a lot more times than you think you will. First time I learned about it, I was like, I'm never going to use this. You will use it a lot more times than you think you will. The most iconic of dumb algorithmic problems for getting a job. People don't really give it to you anymore, but it's become a meme at this point called FizzBuzz. It relies on this modulo operator. So yeah, there we go. We can you can use modulo for that. And so let's put this in parentheses here, division, but the remainder is returned instead of the division value. Okay, put that in there just so everyone knows it when we push this up. If you've never been familiar with modulo, really exciting, really cool operator, very, very amazing. So you can do a lot more math stuff. There are packages and things to help you do even more complicated things. There are exponents, there are a bunch of different things. This was some extra stuff that we were doing in the Python specific course, but that we don't need to do today at all. But there are other math functions. You can do cool math stuff in your code. None type, this is important. Yes, let's go over this really quick. None type. There are two different values for empty or non-existent data. Those are two different things. So empty and non-existent are two different things. And so they have this thing here called the none type. This is a data type. It is very specific. It is not the same thing as something being empty. Okay, and so I'll show you that right now. Yeah, let's do this. I was gonna skip over this, but I think this is valuable. 08 none empty.py. All right, so I can set the value of x, and I can set it equal to something called none, capital N O N E. And if we print the type of this, put it right underneath. If we print the type of x, not C, we print the type of x. print, what is this, 08? If we print this out, it's class none type. Okay, so this is a type of data. It represents a null value. Okay, in other languages, null is something that represents this. So it is a null value here. This is not the same thing as something being empty. We can, every language, this is something good to know when you're going to learn a new language or something, is to understand what an empty value is. Sometimes you're going to define a variable or something, and it's going to be an empty value. And so this is what some of these looks like. So an empty string is equal to, let's say X equals double quotes. This is an empty string, okay? Empty, so maybe not empty. Maybe I should maybe I should do zero value. Zero values we want. Zero values are different from a none type. Zero value string, and let's do a zero. People call them empty as well, so just be aware that these might be the same thing. Zero value integer. What is the zero? What do you think the zero value of an integer is? Well, it's zero. Zero value of an integer. I think the zero value of a float is also zero and not 0.0. But let's maybe it is 0.0. We can check that, but it's zero. So it is the essential value of zero. And the zero value of a Boolean, is false. Makes sense, right? Seems like it makes sense, right? Zero value is off, so think about binary, kind of makes a little more sense. So zero can evaluate to false. One will run anything other than zero is usually a true value. So different data types have different zero values, okay? Something good to know. What's up, Angela? La. Welcome to the channel. Good to have you. What's up, Adhitads? ADHITads. We tried it again, but one of those must be right. Couldn't be wrong. We can never be wrong about something like that. So welcome. Good to have you. Good to see you. So these are zero values. Again, these are different than none, but these are the zero values. So if you were to declare, so the weird thing about Python's zero values is that, like, Python, you can't just, some languages, I can declare a variable. So I can say, hey, I want a variable and I want it to be called X, but right now I'm not ready to give it a value. I don't know what it's equal to yet. I just want to set up space in your memory for this to happen. And so in those languages, this will be assigned basically that empty value. Well, some they will be given none. Some of them they will be given an empty value. And so Python, this is kind of, you have to be explicit about it because you have to give a variable a value when you create it. So gets a little bit weird, but yeah, zero values, they're different than none type. None is different. So if we try to see, you don't know about comparison yet. But we're about to learn about comparison. But I can say, hey, let's change one of these to Y. Let's change this to Y. And you might compare none, or you might compare one of these to, let's change none to Y. And let's change this one to Z. And you might say, hey, is a zero value the same thing as none type? We can actually compare them. We can actually find out if they're the same. And we can say, is Y equal to Z? And this will print out a Boolean value. It'll always evaluate to true or false. And X is not defined. Where is that at? Name X not defined is false. What just happened here? Oh, none type X all the way up here. None type Y. And these two things are not equal. So zero and none type are not equal. That is something that I put in the slides up here, is that comparing none to anything will always return false except for none itself. So, it's a very special data type that you should be familiar with, but don't spend too much time with it right now, at least. What's up, Hitham? Good to see you. Welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for the follow. We already learned this. We already checked how to check the type of something using that type function. That's great. Pretty easy to do. If you're ever confused about what it is, you can get that information. All right. Here now is where we are going to get into the logic. This is where coding. This is where you can make your money. You use these tools to be able to make code do things that you want it to do. So far, we've learned how to, display output, and we've learned how, how different data kind of works, but we learned how to manipulate it a little bit. We learned how to do a little bit of math, but we haven't learned how to do any logic. And this is how we do logic. This slide right here is very important. You can do a lot with these comparison operators. This is gonna this and the next thing. Oh, actually, okay, this is where those things were that they were on a different slide. Okay, so they were here. Okay. Comparison operators. Comparison operators allow you to compare values, okay? They allow you to compare what's on the left to what's on the right, all right? Very important concept. Simple concept, very important. Compare what is on the left to what's on the right. So when we say operators, these are these symbols that do certain things. A single equals is an operator. That's an assignment operator. We're gonna learn about assignment operators in like 2 slides, but these focus on the things on the left and things on the right. There's 2 sides of the equation, and these do this. So the first one is the equality operator. How do we determine if 2 things are equal? These operators always return Boolean values. They only return Boolean values, okay? So if you're comparing 2 things, it is either a true statement or a false statement, all right? This is a very important concept. It took me, I don't know why, this was not explained well to me like years and years and years ago. It took me a little bit to kind of understand this. I don't know why, but hopefully I can keep you from having to go through the same thing. The reason why it is always true or false is because it is always evaluating a statement. Is the statement that you see in front of you true, or is it false? So the equality operator says, hey, is the thing that's on the left equal to the thing that's on the right? If it is, great, it's a true statement, true value. If it is not, false statement. Only 2 options you can get, true or false. Are these 2 things equal? Are they unequal? The inverse of that can be a little confusing. Are they not equal? Is what's on the left not equal to what's on the right? Well, 5 is on the left and 4 is on the right. Are those 2 things equal? They're not equal, so that is a true statement. The statement that you're looking at is in fact true. First off, I missed I think you were already gone last time you gifted the sub #Friday. Thank you so much. I'm coming back through to, we got to work on some WTS stuff. We got to talk about more Wall Street Bros stuff. Thank you so much for the gifted sub. Thanks for coming through so consistently and gifting it to Sharky as well. You all will see. So Sharky will be introduced to you all. We gotta get them on the stream, but one of it's another Mastermind team member right there. So Sharky, again, thank #Friday, because he's helping people again on the war on advertisements. We don't like advertisements over here, okay? We don't like them unless we're giving them. We don't like advertisements unless someone is giving us money to advertise things. So if we don't have to see them, we don't want to see them. And giving out these subscriptions and getting a subscription helps out with that. So good job. All right, so then we have greater than. Is what's on the left, is it greater than the thing on the right? Yes or no? True or false? Less than. So think about this as I've met a lot of people who have issues with the greater than and less than symbols, which one's which, and kind of understanding that. Read everything from left to right, okay? And think about the little thing is the alligator mouth, okay? The alligator mouth is always pointing to the truthful item is going to be the way the alligator mouth. The alligator always wants the thing that's larger, okay? And so you read it from left to right. You say, hey, is what's on the left? And if the alligator mouth is wanting to eat it, you say, hey, is the alligator wanting to eat the thing that's larger? Is the thing on the left greater than the thing that's on the right? Yes or no? And the other one is, hey, the alligator mouth is pointed away. It says, hey, is the thing on the left less than the thing on the right? Does the alligator want the thing on the right more or not? So that's how you gotta read it from left to right. Pretty important, but yeah. Oh, great question, Sin Stream. I do, good question. I used to work a full-time job. I don't I'm not in the industry anymore. I left my full-time job in October. But this is not, I do run a business. So I am still working more than a full-time job right now. This is a part of my business now though, teaching teaching tech, helping people understand tech, really creating a pipeline in technology. I'm no longer a DevOps engineer. I'm no longer a team lead, but yeah, I run a company called Mastermind. We do a lot of engineering related things. So yeah, you know, it's tiring. Most days it's fine. It's only really tiring during times like this when I've been for the past like 6 days. I've been really grinding on some work, some really important things that are helping build the company. You know, making, you know, we're doing all right. We're doing okay. We're making money and doing awesome. You know, it's really cool. But you know, you're gonna go through those ups and down times of when I've just been super busy. So yeah, it can get pretty tough. But I'll be here. We're also going to be having. Hopefully, we're in kind of deeper talks right now. But a familiar face. Come through and help out with some of the other things who they're way smarter than me at some of the software stuff, and so, you know, web development, things like that. And so having someone come out and help out with some of those things so we can actually offer more of these trainings. So you always have some time to come through. But yeah, I appreciate it. Definitely appreciate it. Okay, so greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. So this makes more sense when we see them, when we see it on paper. So we want to spend some time with this one. So let's make a new file and call it 09 equality. Oh, comparison operators, not equality. Comparison operators. Again, comparing the thing on the left to the thing on the right. All right. So is equals. Okay. And so the double equals. So why can't it just be single equals? Well, it can't be single equals because a single equals is an assignment operator. Assign the value of what's on the right to the thing that's on the left. So double equals says, hey, are they equal? So let's do that. So an example is print is 5 equal to 5. And remember, always Boolean, always a true false value. And so this statement returns true because these two things are in fact equal. And start reading them this way. Is 5 equal to 6? Yes or no? It is not. No, it is not. No is a false value. This is a false statement. Okay, so only thing that will return true is that. Now, we're using numbers here. This works with all data types. Okay, we can compare this thing. And obviously 5 is not equal to the string of 6, but you can in fact compare strings. I can say, hey, is this string equal to this string? And if they are at all different, then it will be false. So these two strings are the same. If I were to change one, it will be false. Pretty simple concept there. The double equals is what you do that. Let's do greater than. Send stream. Thank you so much for the 5 gifted subs. Everyone, thank your gifter. We need to make, well, our next emotes on here are going to be about the war on ads. We got to make it a thing because I'm serious. You know, I'm genuinely serious about my aversion to advertisements. Now, I don't do ad blockers. There's a number of reasons why I don't do ad blockers. So I just, again, I've been fortunate enough to be in the tech industry and I've had the money to be able to pay for all of the services and things that I use. I pay for YouTube Red or YouTube Premium now because I don't want to see those ads. And if you do the free trial, they knew what they were doing when they got me with that free trial, because as soon as I saw that first ad, I was like, oh no, I'm not ready to live this life anymore. So I'll spend my last dime on no ads. It's why I've been a paid Spotify user for like 10 years, like a really long time, like since let's say it first came to the US, because I dislike advertisements. I used to pay for Pandora, all that other stuff, but I understand it's not always helpful. So thank you so much, Tinstream, for helping others with my passion of not seeing advertisements. But yeah, I love paying for Amazon, Hulu, and still getting ads. Facts, 100%. That's very true. Same thing with I pay for YouTube TV. That's my TV service. I don't have cable, and it's so frustrating when I'm watching something and normal TV still has ads. I'm like, man, I hate this. I definitely hate this. Yes, Dorothy. Yes, 100%. Downloading videos is super duper helpful. I watch way too much YouTube, like way too much. The professional front end full stack devs that use TypeScript and Tailwind. Two great things. I'm a big fan of TypeScript, huge fan. All right, greater than, we need to keep moving. So greater than says, hey, is what's on the left greater than what's on the right? So is 6 greater than 7? Is 6 greater than 7? No, it is not. 6 is less than 7. So this is a false statement. What we're seeing is a false statement, so it will return false. Now, what happens if we make them the same? This is a confusing piece. Is 7 greater than 7? Read it just like that. Is 7 greater than 7? No, 7's not greater than 7. It's not less than, but it's also not greater than. So this is still a false statement. It is not a true statement. The only way to make it true is to make the thing on the right less than the thing on the left, the thing on the left greater than the thing on the right. And now this becomes a true statement. All right. So less than, same thing. Less than, is 6 less than 7? Yes, 6 is less than 7, so that will give us a true statement and vice versa. So open mouth to the left, greater than, open mouth to the right, less than. So cool. Greater than, less than, with the equals to, and then there's greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. So the same way, actually take these. And greater than or equal to, and we'll do less than or equal to. And so the greater than or equal to or less than or equal to says, hey, not only are we checking for the value of greater than, but we're also checking for the value of equal to. So is 7 greater than or equal to 7? It is not greater than, but it is equal to. And so as long as one of those is true, it can only be one of those because it's one number. As long as one of those is true, it will return a true value. So is 7 greater than or equal to 7? Yes, it is. Is 6 less than or equal to 7? Yes, it is. So both of these are true. So greater than or equal to gives you 2 options to set up. This is a good one. You'll probably use it a lot as well. Greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. And so these work as well. All true statements. I'll leave that here just like this. So double equal sign, greater than, less than, greater than, equal to, less than, or equal to. Okay, now before we get to these assignment operators, let's talk about here we go. This is what I want to go to. I want to go to, before we talk about these things, actually, no, let's talk about this really quick. Let's talk about, let's start adding to this. We'll keep the same file right now. We'll keep the same file. These are logical operators, so they are a little bit different in what they do. But what these do is allow you to chain logic together, okay? So maybe we want to compare multiple things. Maybe there's a bunch of stuff in our application, and maybe we want to compare multiple things in the application to get to one answer. And so we can say, hey, is 7 greater than, so actually let's actually take let's take this to show you this. So we don't need all of these. And okay, so we can say, hey, is 6 equal to 6? Yes, it is. But maybe we want to also check another value. And so we can say, and, I think it's just and. I think it's a keyword in Python. Sure. And is, let's say, and is 6 greater than 8 or something like that, okay? Doesn't really matter what the value is, but here's what the and keyword does. The and keyword allows you to combine multiple comparison operators or multiple operators to determine a singular value. So I actually don't think this is going to print out right. I don't think I can put this in here, but I'm gonna find out in a second. Okay, and it works. Okay, let's talk about what that means though. The and keyword says both things. This is another operator. It says, hey, the thing on the left must be true and the thing on the right must be true for me to evaluate it true. So this is one statement. This isn't 2 separate statements anymore. It's one statement. It says, is 6 equal to 6? is the string 6 equal to the string 6, and is 6 greater than 8? Okay, and that actually should not be, oh, it's false. It's right here. Okay, I didn't see this one underneath. Yes, it is false. I was like, oh, that's weird. Okay, and so it says, hey, first it's gonna check this, and if that's true, is this also true? And the only way that and will return true is if both things are true. If either side of the and is false, if either one evaluates to false, then it will always evaluate to false. So it says, hey, if both of these are true, if this is true and this is true, it's true. If one of these is false, the whole thing is false, okay? So that's what the and does. And let's do an or. Both need to be true for this to evaluate to true. All right, and then let's do or operator, and or is different. So this one's if and says everything on the left must be true, and the thing on the right must be true for it to evaluate to true. The or operator says, hey, if either the one on the left evaluates to true or the one on the right evaluates to true, then this is a true statement. So I'm gonna make this one on the left is true, but this on the right is going to be false. Is 8 equal to 9 a false value? This will evaluate to true. Rage Deep, thank you so much for the 10 gifted subs. The love is real tonight. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for that. I'm forever indebted. Thank you very much for contributing to the members of the stream. Please thank your gifter. Please show them your love, your gratitude for what they've done for you. Again, also, now you all are available to spam emotes, because again, we can't keep letting, well, not to say keep letting, but Learn with Leon, he beat us. He beat us in our own channel with our own emotes, with his emote. He rated me one time, maybe twice, and they won. They had the most used emote. We have emotes too, okay? So now you do have access to some sweet custom emotes, which is me thinking and crying and laughing and being angry and loving as well. So there we go. But thank you so much, Rage Deep. I really appreciate it. Perfect. This is exactly what it's supposed to be. If you are so awesome, Jawsome. If you are just learning Python, yes, we are deep diving into it tonight. But this is we're only spending a week in this course. This is specifically around DevOps, infrastructure and stuff. So we're gonna be moving on to a new topic next week. If you want to like really learn a lot more about Python or about coding in general, the Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're doing something called Decoded, and we'll spend much more time than we're spending now. Like right now, we're running through everything. Those classes, we spend a lot longer on these things because the goal is to learn how to code. The goal tonight is for you to understand what kind of things code can do rather than learning about that stuff. But yeah, 100%. Come on through. That is exactly what this class is for. There are also 3 levels of all these courses. We are in the beginner levels right now. They're all 8 weeks long. So it gets the difficulty and the concepts that you focus on ramp way up. So yeah. Gotta drop. My husband's still looking for a full-time job. He has 2 interviews, still looking. Dope. Yes, I can share his LinkedIn post. Everyone please share Dorothy's husband's LinkedIn post about looking for a job. Help the community out. 100%. I will share. Like I said, I think I'm still talking to a few people. I might have some things coming you all's way about that. So hopefully, still just waiting to hear back. People had a 3-day weekend. A lot of people. So I'm still waiting to hear back. I thought I was going to hear back already, but I didn't get to hear back yet. But dope. See you later. Glad you could come through today. Again, congratulations on passing your Network Plus. It's pretty dope. Okay, so or says, hey, as long as one of these things is true, then this whole statement is true. Is this true, or is this true? If so, it's true. Both of them have to be true here. Only one does here. Okay, let's put that in here. Operator. Only one needs to evaluate to true, or this to be true. All right. I will save that there. I always put a G at the end of Python. Not sure why. Is the G next to it? Python. Yeah, that makes sense. Makes perfect sense. I'm with it. I'm definitely with it. It's the OnlyFans version, 100%. I'm with it. So you can alias it to that if you want. You can alias it to Python and you'll be completely fine. Doesn't hurt at all. My latest job, I got thrown into the deep end using Ubuntu as my daily driver. Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of people are getting thrown into the deep end. Well, luckily, this is the place to be. These are the things. Those are the things that I'm super interested in. So yes, programming, I love it. But I'm a traditionally an ops guy. Moved into DevOps. I've been spending the last few years really getting up to speed on code and like using code for a lot of things. So I feel really weak. I take that back. I don't feel really weak. I've developed significant software projects, but because I haven't spent nearly as much time doing it, and because I know the depth of software development, it's something that I'm going to be spending a lot of time on over the next few years, really ramping up on, because I've had so much infrastructure experience, and so I'm pretty excited about it actually to kind of dive in a lot deeper. I think that's what's so interesting about code is that I've been able to build some pretty significant things without having the base that a lot of people have, and that's why I'm excited to get some of that base, back. That's also why we're gonna have. I'm fully equipped to teach the beginner levels and even the intermediate levels of the software courses, but I'm gonna be having someone who is who's Fang company good teach some of those other the advanced levels of those courses. So yeah, or at least the software one. But yeah, okay. Those are those logic operators. We're almost there. I think there's two more major concepts, and then we'll do FizzBuzz because we should. Maybe we'll do FizzBuzz just to help. But we're actually going to be building, like I said, an ETL process on Wednesday. So yeah, those are logical operators. Now let's do conditional execution. These are the two most valuable things for logic. Combining what we just learned about comparison operators and combining them to conditional execution. Conditional execution says, hey, let's set some conditions in which code will run. So if this thing is true, if this scenario is true, go ahead and follow this code path. If not, go ahead and do something else. If not, go ahead and do something else. And so this allows you to start to have logic branching in your code, branching off what you do based on different scenarios. And this is where coding gets super powerful. So it's a pretty simple concept. I really like that it's this simple, but it really is, if something is true, then do this, then do something. If it's true, go ahead and do something. Else, if something else is true, go ahead and do something else. If none of that's true, if nothing else is true, go ahead and do what I'm telling you to do. So it allows you to add some pretty interesting things. And what's nice about it is these are the keywords. The if, it's really if and else, if and else. So it's not crazy difficult. And so let's get into control flow. So 10 control flow .py. All right, here we go. We're gonna say if, again, if is the keyword here, which is really nice. If, what you're gonna put in after the if is the statement in which you wanna evaluate it true or false. So this is the condition that you wanna worry about, okay? This is the conditional operation. It says, hey, if this thing is true. So if I wanna run this bit of code, I can say let's say if 4 is equal to 4. All right, here's a statement. This statement always evaluates it true or false. We just learned about what kind of statement this is. This is a comparison operator, but it is an equality operator. It says, is 4, is what's on the left equal to what's on the right? Is 4 equal to 4? If this evaluates it true, it will run whatever code I put underneath it, okay? So the code I'm gonna put here is say, yes, this is true, okay? This bit of code right here will only run if this statement is true, okay? If not, it will not run that code. So first I'm gonna run it. I'm gonna run this code right now. And it's a true statement, so this code runs. If I change this, nothing happens. I get 0 output. What's up, Amame? How are you doing? No biggie, it'll be up, it'll be available. Playing Fallout 4. Fallout 4 is a great game. I do enjoy the Fallout series, particularly Fallout 3 and 4. Got to get it in. You should play the Outer Worlds. The Outer Worlds is a very Fallout New Vegas-esque game. If you're a Fallout fan, it's pretty dope. I really did enjoy most of it. Conditional execution have 3 stages: if, yep, else if, and else. 100%. Or can I stack a lot of if or else if? So you can. I'll show you what happens when you stack them and what the caveats of them are, for sure. I think it's called Outer Worlds. I think it's called The Outer Worlds. I think is that what the game was called? Now I gotta look it. I'm sorry. Let's see. Because I don't want to have told you about a word. Yeah, The Outer Worlds. Yeah, there we go. I played through most of it. I didn't finish it, but it's pretty dope. It's very Fallout New Vegas-esque. I think it's made by not the same people, but it feels the same. Okay, so that's if. But notice how this wasn't true, so nothing happened. Okay, nothing else happened. So let's change this up a little bit to make more sense in the context of what we're doing. Let's combine some of the things that we learned. All right, so let's take some input. So we can say user answer, and let's set it equal to input. And we're just gonna say, hey, pick a number, user. Pick a number, please. Okay, we'll say pick a number, please. And then we'll allow them to pick a number. Now, remember, this always comes in as a string, but we want to do some comparisons on a number. So we need to change this to a number really quick. And so all we're going to do is we are going to change, let's change it to X. So we're going to say X equal to user answer, but we're going to convert it to an integer, okay? Just to make sure that we do have a number in here. All right, and so we're going to use this information. We're going to use the input to determine some things. And so this is going to be an app. This application is going to check if numbers are greater, check if input is greater than certain numbers. Okay? Let's try that. I'm making this up on the spot, so exciting. So we're going to say, hey, is what was passed in, so is X less than, no, we'll check if it's equal to something. We'll say, is X equal to 5? Print, yes. We'll say user input 5, okay? So the only time this will be 5 is if the user inputs 5. Anything else, it will not print this out. So, but we might want to do something else. Maybe we want some other type of code to happen. And so maybe we want to say, hey, else if, this is where the else if keyword comes in. It might be elif. What is it in Python? Or is it else? Is it else if? Or is it, I never remember because it's different in every language, but we'll see. But else if requires another thing. So it says, hey, if X is equal to 5, if this is a true statement, go ahead and print this value. If this is not true, it will not run this bit of code down here. It'll evaluate this. If it's not true, it won't run this code. It'll drop down to the next thing and it'll say, else if X is equal to 10. Okay, so if X is equal to 10, go ahead and print the user input 10. It is elif. Excellent, thank you. You know, I'm telling you, you will forget which one's which in different languages. Some use else if, some use elif, some use there's all kinds of different syntax for if else statements. You will forget them as you use different languages. So else if, it says, hey, if this is true, go ahead and print this. It will only drop down to this if this isn't true. So if it is equal to 5, it will run this, and then it will never evaluate this. It'll never even check this. It'll stop at the first one that it matches to, okay? And so let's actually run this code really quick. Nope. Python 3, what's this 10 control flow? .py, nope. If X, invalid syntax. Oh, do I need to put it in, do I need to put this in quotes? Oh, yeah, so first off, indents. So Python uses white space as its for scoping. Scoping is just where the code belongs and what it evaluates to. But yes, that is what it is. It uses white space for that. So indents are necessary for control flow, 100% necessary. Indents and spacing in Python is very, very important, okay? Let's see. What, does these need to be in, why didn't I like that? Line 7, else if, you guys sure it's elif? Well, so I don't want else. I don't want else. Okay. Did I not spell it else if? Maybe it's just elif. For right now, I don't want, I do not want to use else. Else is cool. Else is cool, but we don't want to do else yet. Else is a different concept. All right, so we do elif. All right, so now we pick a number. It is elif. I think you guys told me it was elif, but I looked at it and just typed in else if anyway. So congratulations to me for not paying attention. There we go, elif. So please enter a number. And so if I enter in 5, it'll say, hey, the user input 5, and it'll never do anything else. If you could have multiple statements that would be true, but it's going to match on the very first one, and then it's going to exit out. It's not going to exit out of the program, but it is no longer going to evaluate. This is all one statement. These are a part of the exact same statement, okay? This is one big thing. And so I can run it again. And what happens if I enter in something like 6? If I enter in 6, I get no output. The reason I get no output is because it checks if it was equal to 5. It is not, so it didn't run this. It checked if it was equal to 10, which it is not, so it did not run this. But if I make it 10, user input 10, okay? I can have in if else block. So if statement block, this is a block of code. You can have one if, you can only have one if, okay? A single if that starts everything off, all right? You can have unlimited elif statements. You can have unlimited else if statements. So I could put a million conditions now. I could copy this. I could copy this and I could have well, that did not paste how I thought it was gonna paste. But I could have a million of them. So you can have as many else ifs as you want, okay? And then the last thing that you can have is an else. You can only have one else. Else does not need you to put it does not need you to put a scenario there. It does not need to put you don't need to put a statement that evaluates to anything here. Why? Because this is kind of the default case. It says, hey, you know, if none of these things are true, if nothing above me is true, go ahead and do this. Else says, hey, if that wasn't true, if that wasn't true, if that wasn't true, if that wasn't true, else just go ahead and do this thing here. So I can say print user input a number that is whack. I don't know why, you know, you just put in a whack number. So right now it'll print out this if you put in a 5, this if you put in a 10, but any other number will print out user. For every other number, we've now handled every single case. This handles every single use case in the world. So 5 gives us user input 5. We do it again, we do 10, user input 10. Any other number, 1, user input a number that is whack. Let's do a number like this. The user input a number that is whack. The else is again a default case statement basically that says, hey, if no items above me were true, then this is kind of the fall through. I shouldn't even say that because fall through is a real thing. But this is just the answer. Else run this bit of code. And so these are really important. Like I said, you can have as many of these elifs as you want, but one else, one if, one else. That's all you can have. One if, it's a sandwich. One if, one else, as much meat as you want in between with the elifs there. Now, someone asked about these else, elifs and stuff. Some people like to write code where they don't use any elifs, but this all depends on what the usefulness of your code is. You can just write a bunch of if statements, okay? So I could change this up if I want. I'm gonna comment this out for now. I could do something like this. There's an if statement up here. I could do another if statement. Actually, I should have just taken this. Let's undo. Let's take this and yank it. Let's put it down here and GV, undo, GV slash, there we go. So I could do another if statement down here that's completely separate. Now this is a completely different block of code though. This is a brand new block of code and it's gonna evaluate this thing separately. If I were to do it like this, okay? And maybe we did something where the two values could be the same. So we can say if X minus 5, I should have did modulo here, but whatever, equals 0, then go ahead, user input 10. So take a look at this really quick. we're gonna say if x is equal to 5, go ahead and run this. All right, so normally if that was true, it would do that and it would drop out of this block here and keep going. It is going to do that. It's going to do that here as well. But both of these things will be evaluated because it's a brand new if statement, okay? A completely new if statement. So both of these things can be true. So it's going to do this first. Then it's going to say, hey, if x minus 5 is equal to 0, go ahead and use our input 10, which is dumb, but we can certainly do that. What's up, Joseph Caffarelli? Welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for the raid. Everyone, come on in. Come on in. It's good to have you. We are just finishing up. We're getting super close to the end of our really quick Python coding boot camp. Not really boot camp, just a crash course day, so that we can learn how to use Python to use some cool stuff on Wednesday to do an ETL process. But this is basically a really quick thrust into coding, so that you can understand one aspect of software development lifecycle and learn how to use code for automation when you are dealing with infrastructure. So good. How are you? What you doing today? How was your stream? What were you doing on stream today? Since how you been? It's good to see you. Don't you mean user input 5? Yeah. The words here don't mean anything. I was just kind of showing you that this was a different method of doing things. So we had the ifs and the else ifs, and these are all one block. But ifs start a brand new statement. So every time you use an if, it starts a brand new statement, and that's going to get run. This if statement is going to get run in your code. It's gonna get run in your code. So just be careful with what not be careful, but like there's gonna be times when you just use if statements to do certain things, or where you can just use if statements, and times when you need to use else ifs and else's to figure out what you want to do. So those are the conditional operators. Only run code if the statement in which I want you to evaluate is true. Okay, only run it then. And if not, go ahead and move on to some other stuff. Stream was great, covered IPv6 fundamentals. First off, I need to go watch that because I tell everyone networking is my weakest, it's one of my weakest areas as a whole through the tech stack. I think networking is one of my weakest. It's the one that I'm the least confident in, at least. And Sully he hurt my feelings a little bit. Sully hurt my feelings a little bit over the weekend after Dorothy did an amazing job of getting her Network Plus cert, about people needing to really be really good at networking. And like I said, I'm not terrible, but I gotta get my skills up. Definitely gotta get my networking skills up. So I may check that out because that would be helpful for me. All right, so those are conditional operations, okay? Control flow. This is how you control the flow of code in your application. And I think we only have one more thing that I want to go over. Oh no, we have two more things and we'll be done. All right, there's a lot of other stuff here. We're gonna go over loops and we're gonna go over functions, okay? Loops and functions. All we're gonna do real quick. Loops are going to throw you for a loop, okay? This is gonna hurt a little bit because I'm only gonna dedicate maybe 8 minutes to this. So a loop. What is a loop? A loop is used to run a set of instructions multiple times. There are different types of loops, a for loop and a while loop. There's also more types of loops than just that, but in Python, you've got for loops and while loops. Maybe you have a do while loop in Python as well, I guess. But yeah, loops run for as long as the scenario you specify is true. So we've already talked about setting scenarios, setting that statement of equality, determining whether it's true or false. If this statement is true, then go ahead and do this thing. So loops will continue to run as long as something remains true, okay? And loops are great. So let's hop right into loops and spend way less time than we should spend on loops in loops. So 11, loops.py. Okay, we're gonna do two different types of loops here. What if we wanted to what if we wanted to say a phrase 10 times, okay? That's gonna be the first loop. This is gonna be the first example of the loop that we're gonna run. The first example is we're gonna try to run a loop 10 times. We're gonna try to say something 10 times. And it normally, like we could do print, hi, everyone. We could do this and we could yank it and we could paste it 10 times. That is one way. This is one way for us to do this 10 times. This is, this does solve the problem, okay? If we do Python 11, we are displaying this thing 10 times, true. But that's gross. No one wants to do that. And that's a very simple thing. What if we needed to perform some calculations or perform a number of sets of items over and over again? We would not want to do it this way. And this is where loops come in. So the first way we can do this is what's called a for loop. And I'll say this using, yeah, let's do a for loop. We'll start out with a for loop. And so instead, what we can do, I should just delete it to the end of the file. Instead, what we can do is we can do for, and for basically says for as long as this thing is true, go ahead and run this thing. Now, for loops are a little bit different in Python than other languages. There's a signature to kind of start them up. And yeah, there's a kind of signature to start them up. Python's is a little bit different here than the other languages. You might have seen them in other languages and be like, oh, that's very confusing. I do find them to be very confusing, and well, upfront in other languages. I like that syntax. I understand it a lot, but what I will do is for these, you should go to W3 Schools and you should keep this up. This will help. This will really help you do things. All right. And there's a number of different ways to do this. I'm probably gonna use a range. I'm gonna use a range function really quick. Okay. I'm gonna use this range function because it's easiest. It's a concept that you don't it's a concept that you don't know yet. But we're gonna use the range function to kind of start because it's the easiest way to do this. And so we're gonna say for a value, for a scenario in which is true, go ahead and run this code. A lot of times we're about to learn about something called an iterator. And actually, let's do while first. Let's actually start with a while because it'll help me introduce iterator to you really quick using a while loop. Let's do while first. Sometimes, not sometimes, but when you're going through loops, when you're doing something multiple times, you generally want a way, to count how many times it's running and to help to use it to help you determine whether or not to keep going with things. And this is where iteration comes in. And this is also where incrementation comes in. So iteration, what is iteration? Iteration is just the performing of a task over and over again, or being able to perform something over and over again. And so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna set up a while loop, and we're gonna set up something called an iterator first. So I'm gonna set up something called a counter. And so I wanna count how many times we've gone through this loop. So I'm gonna set it to 0, okay? Now I'm gonna set up a scenario, all right? I'm gonna say while, this is a while loop. While is the keyword. So while this statement I'm about to select is true, run this code. So I'm gonna say while counter is less than 10. All right, so as long as the counter variable, as long as the value of counter is less than 10, go ahead and run my code. All right, let's put a colon here. And now I'm gonna type in the code. And again, we will print out, hello everyone. Okay, I'm gonna run this, okay? And some of you already know what's coming. Python was 11. And it is running non-stop. The code is still running. It is just printing out, hello everyone, non-stop. It is doing it over and over again. Why is it doing it over and over again? Well, because of this. Let's open up our whiteboard here. What we just did is called an infinite loop, okay? And what happened is we set up a counter. So we set up, let's actually delete this. We set up a counter, which was equal to 0. And then we said while counter was less than 10, go ahead and print, okay? So what happens is the very first run, what happens? Counter is 0, okay? So the first time it evaluates this, it says, hey, is 0 less than 10? Yes, 0 is less than 10. That is a true statement. Loops only run as long as the statement is true, okay? So that says it's true, and it's gonna go ahead and it's gonna print out our text, whatever we put in here, okay? All right, so it runs. A loop will continue to loop over itself. It'll continue to run. So then it goes to the next statement. And all that happens is it loops back around and it evaluates this again. It says, hey, is counter less than 10? Counter is 0? Yes, it is. Print it out again. Is counter less than 0 or less than 10? Yes, it is. It's still 0. Print again. So you get into a situation where you have unlimited runs of this thing. We never change the scenario. The scenario is never going to change. It's always going to run because as of right now, our code does not change the scenario at all. All right, Sacred Gaming, see you later. Have a good night. Thanks for coming through. Is there a list of topics that cover each stream? Yes. Go to courses. Well, go to Academy. Let's go to courses.mastermind. Courses.mastermind.io. There's also a calendar. And so on courses.mastermind.io, we are currently on journeys. We're on a journey, and the journey that we're on right here is pipelines. And so if you click on there, we're on the apprentice level of all of them, and you can do this. Yes, Dorian. Yes, there's a web course coming like now, like basically now. Information about that is dropping extra soon. Yes, the web course is on its way. There will also be a UX course later on this year. And there's also going to be, if anyone's interested in product design and development, there is product stuff coming this year as well, and Scrum Mastering. But the Scrum Mastering course will actually only be an excursion. It'll be shorter, but there's a lot. I have some interns. I have some contractors and stuff. Not quite yet. Soon, Potlicker. Soon, definitely soon, but not quite yet. Dorian, thank you so much for contributing to the war on advertisements. Thank you for the love and the support to everyone. Please thank your gifter. I appreciate it. Any thoughts on code architecture? Code architecture, application architecture is something that I am actually relatively recently pretty passionate about, actually. Relatively recently, I'm gonna say in the past year and a half, maybe, of application architecture. I actually find it to be much more interesting. I find application architecture to be more interesting than infrastructure architecture. And that's a space which I'm very comfortable in. And I find it to be more interesting because the trade-offs aren't so finite always. And it's a little harder to see down the road what's happening. But yeah, I mean, I have ideas about it, but they're probably a lot different than a lot of developers' ideas about these things. And that's why I'm interested to have more and more conversations about these things, because I think coming from the background that I come from, I think a lot differently about the value of things that are valuable in the code base, and what trade-offs are valuable. And some people spend a lot of time focusing on things that I don't think matter. And I have my reasons why I don't think they matter. And you can tell me all the reasons why you think they do. And, you know, hopefully one of us will sway each other, because, or we won't, because maybe neither one of them matter and we think they matter more than they do. But yeah. Why is the link I find on your website different than yours? Pipelines. One of those. Oh, so no, those are the same link. That's the same link. Looks the same to me. Love to see you streaming your thoughts on it. 100%. No, you're not derailing this. I like talking about this stuff. Easy life for me. 100%. And so this is the beginner level of things. When we get up to the journeyman level of things, which is the intermediate tier, that's when we start discussing those things a lot more, for sure. And those will be coming probably. We'll probably start running those again in around March, probably March. This ends in late February. March, maybe early April is when we'll run those. But again, also later on in the year, by third quarter of this year, we'll have a schedule where there will be one level at least of a course available for people. So you're trying to get in on the ground somewhere, or you want to get an intermediate or advanced level somewhere, we will have something going on of all three at a given time, so you can dive into it. All right. But yeah, so we need to change, back to the loop, we need to change the scenario. We need to make the scenario different. So the scenario, for us to do this, we can actually increment this counter. So it'll run this, and what we can do is we can add 1 to counter every time it runs, to count the amount of times it does some stuff. So we can say, now counter equals counter plus 1. So we'll do a little math. We'll add 1 to it. This is one way we can do it, okay? So now as we go through, counter is gonna go up, so it's gonna run once, and when it runs, counter is gonna, instead of 0, the next time it runs is gonna be 1. And it's gonna say, hey, is 1 less than 10? Yes, it is. And it's gonna print again. It's gonna go all the way up till it gets to, is 10 less than 10? That's gonna be false, and the loop is gonna stop, okay? So we've set the conditional here. And so let's run it, and it only prints out, it's not infinite anymore. It prints out 9 times actually, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, no, that's 10 because we started at 0. Okay, this is one way to do it. There is something called assignment operators, which is on it's on your slides if you're going through the slides. An assignment operator allows us to shorthand the stuff here. So instead of adding 1 to counter, instead of doing counter +1, we can change this to shorthand, and we can do plus equals. So counter plus, Python does not use the plus operator. It does not have an incrementer expression like that, I don't think. Pretty sure it does not. So you can do plus equals, but I'm pretty sure Python does not allow for a plus, which sucks. But yes. Yeah, see, this is actually gonna fail because this is called an incrementation expression or incrementer expression, does not work in Python. So you have to do plus equals 1. And so when it goes through, it's gonna add 1 to a counter every time, and that number's gonna increment, and eventually it'll get to the point where this is no longer a problem. Okay. Let's see. Are the excursion slides on your site covered in the Twitch videos? Most of the excursions that we've already run are on, I think all of the excursions are there except for Git they're on YouTube. All the slides should still be available. Should be there. I don't know what's on the excursions page. I haven't updated the excursions page yet in Notion, so it might not have all the stuff yet. Some of them have all the slides on there, but I can share. I think Docker has them all there, but I still need to go through and update that and modify that. Yeah, plus is found in C family language. Yep. I mean, I like the plus operations. I like the incrementation expressions for sure. Like I said, I'm someone who likes Go. Go is my favorite programming language right now. It's one that I like a lot. Go is what we're kind of focusing on Decoded this year. Okay, so that's a while loop. A very simple while loop. Let's do the same thing with a for loop. And Python's a little bit weird. And so we can use the range function for this. And I think we can do, what is it, for I in range 10. And we'll talk about this in a second, but we can just take this and paste this here, and save this. And so I'm gonna comment this out for a second. And we'll break this down. We'll run it, make sure it works, and it does work. What is this? So for loops again. So while loops are, while this thing is true, go ahead and print this thing out. While loops are generally used when you aren't sure about how many times something needs to run. It's generally when you're gonna use a while loop, generally. But you can use them anytime you want if you'd like, but for loops are pretty great. I prefer for loops. Go only has for loops. You can use them like while loops sometimes too, but I do prefer for loops. And so there's a cool thing called range, which is a tool you have. And like I say, for I in range 10, what this does, this allows us to count up to 10 from 0, starting at 0, it's gonna go up to 10. And the for loop is automatically gonna set up an incrementer. So I right here, the same way we had to manually set up counter up top, the I is an incrementer. So every time the for loop runs, it will automatically add 1 to whatever I call this incrementer. I can call this whatever I want. I can call this, I can also call this counter if I'd like. Okay, I can call it counter if I want, and it will still run for me. No problem. This is just a variable for a value, and every time it's going to iterate on this, and it's going to increment this by 1 until it gets to whatever the end of the range is. So if I change this to 50, it will run this 50 times. So range is cool. Before loop allows you to, in most languages, allows you to be a little more granular about the scenario that you want to specify. And so for loops are how you can do that. So great, very exciting. Again, the goal is not for you to be a pro at loops. The goal is for you to understand right now that you can run code over and over again and make that work. Okay, so those are 2 different kind of loops. For loop, while loop. Definitely take some time later and go through and see if you can look up some loops. I'll give you some practice problems on loops as well. And those are loops. The last thing that we're gonna do, so I can get us all out of here, the very last thing that we're gonna do is we are gonna talk about functions. All right, there's a bunch more stuff in these slides, but it's mostly extra. It's still talking about loops here and when to use each loop. So there are stuff on when to use them all. And let me call the function. Okay, functions. Here we go. What in the world is a function? This is This is pretty important. This prints 11 times. Is that because it starts from 0? Great question. What prints 11 times? The for range one. So yes, it's because it starts at 0. And it's because actually, does it print 11 times? Let me see this. Let's do 5. Is it +1? Let me let's run this really quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you're talking about your while loop, did you do less than or equal? Did you do less than equals to? This prints 11 times. I'm getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You should get the exact amount for range. The reason why you should get the exact amount for range is because it does up to, but not including the last number. The while counter, okay, the while counter is because, yeah, it starts at 0. So it'll print on 0. It'll print when it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So it should still only print 10 times, because when it's 10 is not less than 10. So you should only get 10 of those. You should still only get 10 of them in place. So that should be all it is. Yep, the memes introduced in the slides are all spot on. I do my best. I do my best with the memes are my favorite part. Okay, so Sans Pope, paste in your code and maybe we can help you out here, or in the Discord if you want to paste in Discord. Might be easier. So what is a function? This is pretty important. Oh, it didn't come out online. You found it. That's troubleshooting right there. You're a beast. Perfect. What's a function? A function, this is very important. This will really help you be great at code, or at least give you the tools to start doing bigger and better things. A function is a block of code which only runs when you call it. So the code is there, but it will only run if you call this code. You can also pass data into it, known as parameters, into a function, and a function can return data as a result. These are all 3 things that up front may not make any sense to you. We're throwing them out there, okay? We're throwing it out there. Function, the biggest part I want you to know is that it is a chunk of code it's a reusable block of code, so you can reuse it, and it only runs when you call it. All right? All the other stuff is extra. You can pass data to it, known as parameters, and the last one's important, that to get data out of it, you have to return that data out of it. We didn't learn about scopes tonight, but that's not it's a part of that, but it's fine. How do you create a function? The way that you create a function is with a keyword called def. All right, and this defines a function. When you see parentheses, think function. So all the times you've seen parentheses, this is a function. So print, whenever you're running print, this is a function, okay? Print is a function. Whenever you see stuff with parentheses, open and close parentheses, means it is calling and executing a function. The print function has some code, and it only runs when we call on it, okay? What we pass into print, this information in here is actually an argument. We are passing information into the print function, okay? We can run print just like this. It won't do anything, but we need to pass data into it, okay? So we pass something into it, and it does some cool things. So, and it only runs when it's called. So print is how we call it with the parentheses. Def is the keyword for it in Python. I'm gonna show you how to set up a function signature here. How do we call a function? Again, you call it by its name to be able to call it. Functions run when they're called. How do you call it? We call it by name. And let's do that part first, and then we'll add in the arguments in a second. Come on, I'm really struggling over here. Okay, there we go. Let's get it together. 12, functions. .py. This part is important. So functions only run when called, and let me put that up here. Functions only run when called. Pretty important concept here. So let's set up our first function. This is called a function signature. I didn't memorize that, but just giving you the nuggets. Def is the keyword to say, hey, I'm setting up a function. And you can call the function, for the most part, whatever you'd like. Keep it lowercase letters. It can't start with the uppercase, I don't think, in Python. There's some different rules in different languages for naming things. I don't know what the specific rules in Python are, to be honest. I always just use lowercase. I think Python uses something called snake case, which is words separated by underscores, because it needs to be, there can't be any spaces in it at all. I generally use something called Pascal case, which is capitalizing the first letter of a new word, but except for the very first letter. But yeah. in Linux is shell or shell is command essentially a function. Yes. So nasty. We can look at some what some of these shell commands are. They're little scripts. They're little applications that are just a bunch of functions. Yeah, that's essentially what they are. Okay, so def, and let's make a function called add. Okay, so we're gonna have a function that's gonna add some things together, and right now it's not gonna do anything. Okay, this. Are there any assigned project exercises for the bootcamps? There are assigned projects. I'm trying to get them all worked out right now. All the projects and stuff are ready. They're all already decided upon. There's assignments. So the first quizzes just went out. The first assignments were supposed to go out at the end of last week. I had some issues with the Google Classroom, but those should be going out tonight. I think I worked them out. The pipelines one in particular, one for this class, the first assignment might be ungraded because I have them through, they're submitted through, I'm using a combination of Google Classroom and GitHub Classroom. Hit ! Register if you want to get access to those things, completely free, and you get access to those things. But there will be assignments through GitHub Classroom. There'll be quizzes and stuff as well, and there'll be little projects and things as well. 100%. They're already worked out. I'm just super trash at. You all have already seen me operate with trying to give you access to that quiz. I'm just super trash with Google Classroom, to be 100% honest, and I just ran into some weird issues with it. And also, I wanted to fix it earlier today, and when I finally got to it, because I was doing so much other stuff, I just didn't have time to fix it before this class. Yeah, meme case. If you want to meme case it, I think meme case is available. I think you can do a meme case. Don't do that. Do your best not to do that. But okay. Python doesn't enforce many rules. Yeah. Okay, so this is a function right here. This is a complete function for the most part. This will be a complete function right here. Just do nothing. But let's put something in here like print. Let's just print something out. This function will add stuff together. All right, this is valid Python code, okay? What happens if we run this code? Let's run this. 12. When we run this code, nothing happens. We get no output. Why do we get no output? Again, functions only run when called. Functions are valid code, but it's reusable. So that's the first thing I really want you to remember. The functions are, if you ever have to do a piece of code more than once, and so this is different from over and over again. This is different from iterating through code or just processing something multiple times. If you need to be able to use this code as a utility and run it at different places throughout your code, setting up a function will allow you to do this, but we have to call it. How do we call this function? By name. And so we'll call add, but you have to use the parentheses, okay? So this is calling a function. The name with parentheses is calling the function. So now if we run this function will add stuff together. I told you guys right up front, I was completely honest with you. If you're new to the channel and you didn't come to the first day to see that in my slides, in my introduction about me, I said I have fat fingers and that I'm a terrible typist, even though I have an extreme love for keyboards. Let me tell you about that. Real quick sidebar. This is a custom build. I'm a big fan of custom keyboards, and I built a few keyboards. This is my company build. This is my Mastermind build. It actually has blue backlights. It has RGB, but blue backlights. My company colors are black, blue, and white. Really nice. Okay, it is a tofu. 60% tofu pot liquor, 100%. These are JTK Arctic keycaps. These are Zelios V2s as the switches. Great, unlubed, phenomenal. I'm doing another build, one for the office, because I told you I'm trying to become a better typist. I have become a better typist. I use an interesting layout. I use something called Sangan, I believe. And so it's an interesting layout, and I have trouble going in between keyboards. I'm building a new one. My stuff just came in today. Only thing I don't have is keycaps. I'm also broke. I shouldn't have bought this keyboard. Not this one, the new build. It's okay. I got a baby on the way, all right? But the baby, it's an investment. I need to be able to type well for the baby to survive, okay? For the baby to get all the things the baby needs. My baby's gonna be out here just, pooping on the ground if I don't learn how to type. And, see, it's an investment, all right? You gotta get him some diapers. Him or her, I don't know what it is yet. But I got a purple tofu, 60%. It's dark purple. It's going to have, I bought pre-lube switches. I got a really good deal on some, what are those things called? On the Novel Keys creams, pre-lubed. I'm too busy right now to be lubing switches, and I really I really wanted my switches to be lubed. Great. If you're not in that world and you don't know, it's intense. It's all of it's intense. NK cream, yeah, got some novel creams on the way. My first linear build. I generally am not a fan of linears, but I love the sound of novel creams, especially lubed, and people seem to love them a lot. So I got a really good deal on them. So I hope they're legit, but we'll see. And yeah, I ordered some keycaps that were perfect. They were beautiful. You can look up the GMK. It's the GMK Alpines. I thought they were out. The group buy started now, and it just ended, but they're not going to ship until October. I'm a fan of Tactile as well. These Helios V2s are phenomenal. I really do love them. I want to get some Glorious Pandas. I'm trying these out because I think I'm trying the NK creams because I can resell them. If it's a problem, I can almost guarantee. I got them for so cheap that I can sell them for what I got them for. Especially pre-lube, I'm sure I could if I needed to. But I'm gonna try it out. I'm gonna see how it is. Expanding my horizons. But pretty excited about that. So now I need to get some keycaps. I'm gonna get some cheap keycaps probably while I'm waiting until October of 2021 for my real keycaps. But yeah, it can be pretty expensive. Don't yes, this build, where is it? This build right here was a total. This is gonna hurt when I tell you this. This build was a total of around $400. But the reason why it was so expensive, the keyboard itself was closer to $300. I ordered a custom USB cable, a coiled cable. That USB cable set me back like $90, and that was the big problem. Okay, it's definitely a whole subculture for sure. Don't go down that road. Please don't go down that road. This new build is not that much. This new build is a budget build in comparison for sure. I got a regular cable. But it's like 200. It was like $200 something total. But again, it's something that you use every day, and they, for the most part, they last. Yeah. Burning JC. I will never do that again. I will never. It was nice, and it broke. It's like it doesn't work anymore. I'm trying to find it. Hold on. Here we go. So it's blue and black. It's blue and black, and it still works, kinda. It's got an aviator connector right here, and yeah, it's like, you can get your special colors, and it's coiled. It's really nice, but it's the whole thing, man. Don't get into it. I'm so serious. I have two big vices. This one's small in comparison, but it's this in cars. Okay, it's this in cars, and luckily, like it sucks because you can't just go buy cars. So like it keeps me in check. It definitely keeps me in check. But the keyboard stuff, man, problematic. Definitely problematic. Fix some mechanical keyboard keys that don't work. Maybe. Sounds like it might. I don't know. I'm not sure. But you could try it. I'm relatively new to the keyboard game, relatively new, so I still am learning a lot of things. I've learned a ton. But yeah. I bought a Moonlander. I wanted a Moonlander, but I was scared to try ortholinear. I was scared to switch it up because, again, I told you I'm a bad typist. I'm getting good at this format. I'm getting pretty good when I'm not in front of you all. My type racer stuff is, I'm finally up to like the 50s, consistently, every 2 out of 3 games, I'll get into the 50s, so I didn't want to learn something new. I really like this layout. I really, really like this Sangan layout, but yeah. All right, so my bad for the shift off. We're coming back. We're bringing it back to functions. All right, we wrote a function. This is what a function looks like. And the way that you run it is to call it. And we called it, and it says this function, it says Dunction, but I updated it. And now it'll say this function will add stuff together. And together spell wrong too. But if you want to, the other piece of this, where in the slides, we're talking about how we add arguments, okay? How do we pass data into this function? Well, the way that you pass data into the function is, one, when you are setting up the function, when you're setting it up to be used, you tell it what you want to pass in. So if we want to add 2 numbers together, what do we need to add? What do we need to pass in? We need to pass in 2 numbers. So we're gonna set up variables. What goes in these parentheses is a variable. The variable doesn't exist. You are creating a variable right here. So I'm gonna pass in number 1. They're placeholders essentially. So num1 and num2. Okay. And what I can do now is I can use these variables. Whatever is passed in first will be num1. Whatever is passed in second will be num2, and they're separated by a comma. So instead of doing this, see inside these, I can do num1 plus, whoa, what happened to my mouse? Num1 plus num2. So we can do a little bit of math, okay? So now if we call add without passing anything in, the problem is we set up a function that's expecting two things to be passed in, two arguments to be passed in. When we try to run it, it fails because it says, hey, I need two positional arguments. I need num1 and I need num2. So the way that we call it with these items is we pass them in right here. So if I want to add 4 and 7, this is how I will pass it in, okay? I will call add and pass in the two numbers that I want to take these places, okay? If I run it, it adds up and it is 11. So we wrote our first function, okay? Great, phenomenal. But the print statement is printing stuff out to the command line. We didn't talk about scoping yet, but one of the problems that we have right now is this function, because it's a little contained, reusable piece of code. What happens in this piece of code, what happens in this function is what's called scoped to this function. So everything that happens inside of this function is only kind of happening here. And so let's say we wanted to use this data. Let's say we wanted to like add these two things together and use it. Let's say we set up another variable inside of here and we're like, hey, the sum of these two things is equal to these two things. And then later on, we try to print out sum, okay? We try to print out this variable sum that we created up here. So we're gonna call it, we're gonna call add, it's gonna add the two things together, and then we're gonna try to print out sum once we get the value of sum, okay? And when we try to do this, it just gives us a built-in function sum. It's seeing sum as something else because, actually it's some actual thing, hold on, there's some built in. Is that a reserved keyword? Let's call this sum of nums, okay? Sum of nums. We'll change it because it looks like sum is a keyword. And when I run this, it says, hey, sum of nums is not defined, okay? What's happening is, remember I just said we didn't learn about scope, but this function, everything that's happening here is contained to this little run of functions. So it gets set up here, but then outside of this function, which is everything else, it doesn't know about this thing. This thing doesn't exist outside of this function. And this is where we have to do something, we have to return it, okay? This is where the section in the slides that says a function can return data as a result. We need to get data outside of this thing, we must return it. So what we can do is we can return sum of nums, but we still can't use sum of nums out here because this function, this thing was created in here. We can't use it outside, but we can save this value. We can save the output of this to a value, but we must return that data. And now if we run this, it will not work because sum of nums is not defined because I need to print out value instead right here. And now it'll give us our value. What's up, Biz0? Welcome. Also, sup Twitch, welcome. Devorg 33, welcome. Zeke, welcome as well. Good to see you all. Good to have you. Is Python passed by value? What do you mean by passed by value, Burning JC? What do you mean by passed by value? Can you define the variables when you're running it, or do you need to define before running it? Do you mean actually at runtime, or I'm a little confused with what you mean. You need to, like, before you need to define the value. You need to define the variables when you're like when it's actually running. Before you run the code, you need to define the value of the variables. In Python specifically, which is annoying. Got a stupid question. I've been so busy lately to watch your streams. Is it being recorded? Yes, it is. And they go up on YouTube. All the YouTube playlists, there are playlists for each of these. There's some old ones as well. The new ones should be right at the top. And so they only have a couple of things in them because we were only like on week 3. They go up there 24 hours after. Sometimes I get behind, but usually around average around 24 hours after because of Twitch. Twitch has some terms where it has to be 24 hours after. So yeah, Pass by value or pass by reference, they are asking. I'm a little confused. Pass by value means that a copy of the actual parameters value is made in memory. Yes. I don't I think it's pass. I'm pretty sure it's pass by value in Python. Pretty sure. And yes, that for Go, that's why you need pointers. I think Python's the same way. And pass by reference. Okay, yeah, there we go. Good question. Good question. But yes, for sure Go is that way. Yeah. Okay. So it's interesting. This is one of the reasons why, people love it, like languages like Python. Questions like that are the reason why I like Python. I would have known exactly how to answer that if we were talking about Go, but I don't know these things about Python because Python does magic for you. A lot of people who do Python every day aren't familiar with a lot of the intricacies of the way that Python works, to be 100% honest. I'm asking if you can take values as user input and apply it to a function that you defined that has no value. So take user input and apply it to a function that you defined that has no values. The only thing I'm stuck on there is you define a function, but it has no values. You take a value from a user input. And so do you mean, maybe I'll try to do an example and see if I understand what you're asking. Hold on to that for a second. Things like lists are references to containers, are passed by reference. Other objects are passed by value. Okay. Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about. I love sharing things like this. This is the stuff I love to share the most, like understanding these intricacies of something like Python. But again, I find that for a language like Python, it is it's interesting. So it sounds like maybe not everything is passed this way. So do you mean, you said, so maybe let's take in user input really quick because we can right here. Say take user input and say user input, whatever. I can't spell. Well, I could spell. That was just fat fingers. User input. So passing some user input, and you're saying, and you're asking, what I think you're asking is pass into a function that has no value. So you're saying try to pass it into a def that doesn't have, are you saying doesn't have any arguments? Because yes, we can pass it in, like we can take the two numbers to add in. We could take in user input one, so num1, number one equals, and then copy this, paste it again, and take in number two like this, and take these values in, wrap them in integers. And I hope this is what you're asking. Wrap them like this, and instead down here in this function, pass in those two values down here, maybe. Number one and number two. Maybe that's what you're asking. I don't know, but that'll work. If I pass them like 5 and 6, it'll still work. Yeah, you can 100% do that. And it will do exactly what you want it to do there. Once I stumbled the presenter at Microsoft with a question, it's a true question, I think. Oh, about the yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, like I said, I'll tell you if I don't know. If I'm not sure, I don't know. Sounds right. I do. Questions like, so it's always funny. Like right now, I have like 30 things going in the back of my mind because of this article. I'm very interested in reading articles like this because, again, this is, to me, like this, like knowing things like this are the new frontier for me. This is the kind of stuff that I really like to dive into now because I am trying to dive so much deeper into software. But immediately my mind goes to, all right, I want to read this, but I want to read the same thing. I want to read the same thing for specifically for JavaScript. I have so many questions about JavaScript. So many questions. I like JavaScript. I have so many questions about JavaScript that I want to know how it works under the hood for a lot of things. Do you like WSL? I love WSL. WSL is the reason why I'm using Windows right now. I'm coming back to Windows full time. I used to be a Linux specific person, but Windows is the most complete operating system for me now because WSL is amazing. It is not perfect. I'll be honest with you, WSL is not perfect. So in those instances, I do have I use remote development environments. Mine's with Lino, but with anyone you want to use it with, I use remote development environments for more serious things. But I do a lot on WSL. I really, it's a really good platform. Like it's really impressive for sure. Okay, so that's the function. You can call it. You can pass in arguments. You can pass in as many as you like. Because I seriously, I didn't think. So it's really funny because I didn't start doing any remote development until Lino reached out to me, and I was like, okay, what in my mind, I was like, what can I use a VPS for? I hadn't felt the need to use a VPS in so long. And as soon as I set it up, again, I work off of 3 different computers. I work off of a desktop here. I have a powerful desktop, really 4 different computers. A desktop here that I do work off of that's streaming everything, all of this. What you're looking at right now is a Surface Pro. So that's another computer, and I do development here off of that. But I only use the Surface Pro for the stream. My laptop, I have an XPS 17 that I use. I also have a ThinkPad, but I don't really use that as much anymore. But I have an XPS 17 that I do a lot of work on, a whole lot of work on. And I have a desktop in the office that I do whenever I'm in the office that I work off of that. And so having a centralized, for someone who's bad at remembering to push my stuff to GitHub or things that I just don't need to be a repo, I like to have a centralized place for code specifically. It is going to be my workflow for I can't see me moving away from. It's perfect. It really is perfect. Like I love it. I love it for someone, but everyone doesn't have that same problem. Everyone's not working off of multiple computers. It's very very convenient. But okay, that was return. That's the last thing we're working on. So return, just to return the data, and returning data is how you get the data outside of it. So so whatever runs in here is kind of contained into its own little capsule. And if you want the data to be able to make it outside of this, you must return that data. All right. So that was a lot of different topics, a ton of different topics tonight, but we're all done. Very quick, tangible takeaways of tonight. Take a look at these, all these options. We're gonna put this into practice immediately on Wednesday. The goal, again, if you're super confused, it's okay. It's okay. The goal wasn't to learn how to code tonight. It was to understand what you could do with code, to see the different ways the tools in code worked. It should pique your interest. It should set you off on your journey of coding, but you do not need to worry about being a programming pro. The thing on Wednesday, I'm going to provide you you're going to have along with it, if you're worried about it, you're going to have a Notion page that's going to help walk you through it as well. So copying and pasting and knowing exactly what to do, you will have a guide with it as well. And the goal again is to understand what we're doing with it, what problems we're solving with it, and it'll start to get your brain juices flowing about what to do with it. So tangible takeaway. Tonight, we learned, we did a crash course in programming. We learned a lot. We learned about displaying output using print. If we want to get output to the user, out to the screen, out to something called standard output. We learned that also there's a thing called variables, which are very important in programming, that allow us to save a reference of a piece of data. So if we want to save the value of something, we can create a variable. This variable can change, but we can use this reference to refer to this thing throughout our code, even though the data underneath it can change. We also learned about arithmetic operators, so things that we can do math. Okay, we can add, we can subtract, multiply, divide. You probably learned, some of you may have learned modulo or modulus for the first time tonight, which is that division, but it returns the remainder instead of the actual value. We also learned about some string methods, some things we can do with strings. We learned about the different data types, and we learned that we can do some cool things with numbers, like those arithmetic operators. You can also do those with strings, some of them, but talk about that later. But we can do some cool things with strings. Those string methods allow us to do some pretty cool things, little functions. We just learned about functions that you can do. Those are functions that we're applying to strings. We also learned about logic operators and how we incorporate logic into our code. And we learned that there are equality operators, or there are comparison operators which check if something is equal to something. What's on the left is equal to what's on the right, or is what's on the left greater than what's on the right, or less than, equal to, greater than, equal to. We learned about those. We learned about conditional control flows. So if statements. If this statement is true, that we are going to use comparison operators to make. If it's true, run some code, else run some other code, and it allows us to decide where our code, the flow of our code and how that works. We also learned about loops, so we can run a piece of code over and over again. As long as the statement we select is true, it'll run this code over and over again. So it makes it super easy for us to run a piece of code a lot of times very quickly. Then we learned about functions, which is a little contained piece of code that will only run when we call on it. And you can also pass information into these things called arguments that will allow us to do more things or to process things differently. And they only run when called. And how do you call it? Remember, think about parentheses, and we can go through and do that. So we have a bunch of examples all through here. This was a really serious crash course into the basics of programming. These are all the base level tools for the most part that you kind of need to kind of get started. So if you're trying to get in DevOps, if you're trying to get into site reliability engineering, you want to understand these things, it will make you better if you have a base level of computer science understanding. And so take what you learned today and start to build on it. Come through to the decoded classes where we're diving deeper into these things, where we're spending entire weeks on the intricacies of loops and actually using them to solve problems. So you can learn a little bit more there, but we just wanted to get a taste of it and kind of understand what's happening here. And so we're gonna, again, like I said, we're gonna use this on Wednesday to do a Python ETL process. This is something that's a little more focused around the job of someone who's managing infrastructure and dealing with things on that level. And I'll present it all to you, and we will go through and build a genuine solution for this thing. A lot of the concepts will be over your head, like the pieces of Python we didn't learn about. It's okay. It's okay. We learn the tools. We're gonna be building this thing pretty simply. And then that'll be it for the week. So yeah, I think it was the longest pipeline stream so far. I think so too. I definitely think so too. So hopefully, I mean, but we did just learn, like I said, we learned like 4 weeks of things in a night. So hopefully this is the longest day. But that's it. I'm immediately going to go off of this. Oh yes, thank you. I was trying to remember Nitro Sage, the last thing that I was going to do, and it was exactly that. I was going to create a repository and upload this to GitHub really quick. All right, so let's do that really fast. Let's go ahead and create a repo so that you all can get this code. If you want this code, you can come grab it really quick. Let me give you a space for it. One day we're gonna set up a timer so that we can see how fast we can create a new repository from start to finish. First off, let's see what the last repository we called. I'm gonna get some consistency in my repositories. So DevOps Bootcamp, Jan 2020. No, this is 2021. So it's not that one. Repositories, there's too many here. All right, decoded Q1 2021. So we'll call this one Pipelines Q1 2021. All right, so let's do that real quick. Pipelines -Q1 2021. Code from Pipelines Apprentice Journey. And we will go ahead and create it. All right, and let's go. Let's grab this. And let's go ahead and push this. Git init. So we're gonna create a Git repository. This is gonna create a Git repo right here on my computer. I'm gonna add everything. I'm gonna commit. And I'm gonna say initial everything from class 5. And then I'm going to, I did this. Let me change it to main because some people are serious about this. I'm not serious about it yet, but we'll change it to main, and then we will get push -u origin main. All right. What's up, Disc 105? Good to see you. It's been a while. How are you doing? My man, all good. Thanks for coming through anyway. I'm hoping you got something out of it. I'm glad to see you. Goku Dorifto, I love it. How you doing? Thank you, I appreciate it. I definitely do appreciate it. All right, so it's here. The code is here now. You can go here to look at it, to clone it, do whatever you'd like to this code. Great. So also, if you want to practice, this is actually even more, this is even greater. You know what I'll do? I will also apply the Google class, the GitHub Classroom stuff. That is for, I'm I'm still trying to work out the broken, there's two that are broken that I haven't even moved over to this account because they are failing for some reason. But there's a decoded one that's supposed to be dropping right now. That I had to test to make sure it worked because the other one wasn't working, but this one is working. But it's going to take you through, it's Go, but it takes you through some of the main concepts of some of these things, and you can kind of submit some of this stuff. This is the link for it. I'll share it it'll pop up in the Google Classroom. There's also like 2 other assignments, but like I said, I'm having trouble where these worked. They all worked, and now GitHub Actions, I think something changed. I think the base image GitHub Actions might be using changed underneath me or something. I'm trying to figure out, but they're all failing now, so I haven't moved them all over yet. That's what I spent this afternoon trying to do. I'm gonna try to figure it out tonight and hopefully get all this released. I'm sure it's a simple problem. I just gotta find out what the underlying problem is. But it will automatically grade your assignment. It'll have you clone a repo. It'll tell you what to do, and when you submit it, it'll automatically check it for you through GitHub Actions. So try it out. We'll get it worked out. This is the first time we're trying this. We'll get it worked out. I promise you I'll get it worked out so that it is a smooth process pretty soon. But you'll get a number of these. So yeah, if you want to grab it, let me give you the actual code for this. If you want this repo, I think I already shared it. Oh, I did already share it. Well, I'll share it again, just for fun. Doing things been swap with work. Yeah, yep. Never a dull day in IT. I'm with you. I understand 100%. Cool flow and teaching. Thank you. I really do appreciate that. It's main now. A conversation for another time. I don't care. I don't personally care. I'll tell you. I have no problem discussing, openly discussing things exactly like this. I understand why people have an issue with master versus main. I get it. 100% get it. I don't have a problem with it. But you know, I'm happy to go to main because I don't feel strongly about it. I will happily go to main if that's the flow that everyone's doing. Cool, I'm with it. It doesn't hurt me at all. Whatever. Now you might catch me saying master all the time because that's what I'm used to. But hey, you know, I will do my best to do what we're supposed to do. I don't know. But cool. All right, everybody, have a great night. I'm gonna get out of here. Go say hello to the wife and go relax a little bit. Let's raid somebody who we're gonna go over and say hello to this evening. I am the worst typist. How am I this bad at typing? But I'm only this bad in front of you all. I really am only this bad in front of you all. Like, I'm not good, but I'm really bad in front of all of you. Cyber insecurity, pen tester blueprint. We might go over there. Hold on, we definitely might go over there. Yeah, let's go over there. I clicked on the first thing that caught my eye. Let's go over and say hello to cyber insecurity. Let's see if I can do this correctly. Raid and head over to cyber_in security. I wonder if this is case sensitive. Shouldn't be, but appreciate everyone. Thanks for coming through. You know, happy day 1 of week 3. You've already made it to week 3. Congratulations. Great job. Keep coming through. Just keep going. We're almost there now. Week 3 is done. You only got a little bit of time left and we will, you know, everything will be good. Well, I saw a guy's interview today. What time? Oh yeah, dope. Let's head over, say hello, let them know we said hi. I'm gonna learn a little bit about security because I'm pretty interested in security as well. But peace out, everyone. Have a great night. See you tomorrow for Decoded. If you want to come through for Decoded, we are doing all numbers stuff this week. So we're gonna get real in depth with understanding the numbers, data types, and what we can do and how it works with everything else. So that's it. Peace out, everybody.